or skill training program or other things. No, what's important is in all these programs that you do, you must inspire the person. And sometimes there are people who look always at the negative side. No, I mean, they don't have maybe enough confidence in themselves. And so that's where the mentor has to build. No, it must build the confidence of that person, that small entrepreneur. Confidence spells a lot of things. No, I mean, and the right attitude, as they say, hard work, sipag at syaga, Manny Villar, that's all true. Hard work, passion, optimism, is key, and of course perseverance. No, so some people you can see they fall down, they try again, they fall down. So the Philippine PTTC plays a very important role. Of course, with the Department of Trade and Industry there, Go Negosyo has been partnering with DTI, DA, and DOT for the last 6 years, and we have deployed our mentors. We have Yusek Marley Cruz, former Undersecretary Merly of DTI, as is now our advisor, who focuses really basically on the Kapatid mentoring program. No? And of course, we have with Department of Agriculture, Secretary Dar, we have Jingay Hontiveros, who is focused also on CAMP, no? The same program, Kapatid Agri Mentoring Program. No? So you can see that we use the word mentor a lot. No? So 35 years of helping MSMEs is important, and that's the role that PTTC plays. And remember, people that go through your center look forward to a better life, and it's a commitment that you have made being part of PTC to give your best. No? And I advise that you always try to ensure the quality of your training programs, because this can spell the success of your MSMEs that go through these programs. So again, I'd like to congratulate the PTTC for 35 years. That's a long time. And of course, your Executive Director, Ms. Nelly Deleria, for all your hard work, your passion, and may you continue to inspire more MSMEs succeed in life. This pandemic has brought a lot of challenges to our MSMEs, and my role as an advisor to the president over the last 2 years was to find a solution. Well, you know, it's very hard to mentor an entrepreneur when the economy is closed, because whatever you do, if there is no movement and restricted movement, then it won't work. So what we did was to just continue to handhold these entrepreneurs and wait for the time to operate, which was started last year when the economy started to open. And that's why in the last 6 months, I've been fighting to open the economy. And I'm glad, hopefully next week, we move to alert level 1, which is basically everything will be open. And that is the move towards moving back to a normal life, living with COVID. And of course, if you're fully vaccinated and you get sick, then it will be mild. And so that's the strategy. We hope to see the year 2022 a much better year, definitely. We have vaccinated a lot of Filipino people, especially in NCR. And through these vaccines, it's actually allowing us to open the economy even much more. So that is the good news. Now, what we have to do is to save those MSMEs who are in limbo, where they need refinancing because their losses have mounted, so they don't have enough working capital. And so this is a challenge wherein the banks hopefully will start to lend as they see the economy open up. But rest assured that we are there. Go Negosyo is fighting for every MSMEs to succeed in our quest. So again, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you so much, That's really a truly inspirational and heartwarming message from the Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Mr. Joey Concepcion. Something is really with number 3, no? Sabi nga nila, 3 is a charm. Si Ma'am Nelly, meron siya kaninang 3 P's. Ikaw, meron kang 3 C's. Now, si Mr. Joey Concepcion, 3 M's. That's mentorship, money, and market. Ayan. So, just a trivia lang also, no, LA. It was during the term of his father as DTI Secretary, as Jose Concepcion Jr. when PTTC became a reality. So, his father was the Secretary of DTI in 1986 to 1991. At siguro dito niya nakuha, no, yung passion niya in helping MSMEs. Biro mo, yung Go Negosyo is 16 years na. Kaya talagang matagal na talaga siyang advocate ng pagtulong sa ating mga MSMEs and mentoring our MSMEs. And as we mentioned earlier, today is dedicated to our partners and we will have 2 parts. Diba? We will have panel discussion and of course, our recognition of partners as mentioned by Edie Nelly a while ago. And we also like to say hi to our viewers here on Zoom and also live din tayo sa Facebook page ng PTTC. And also, some of our partners are here. Would like to acknowledge Mr. Edwin Pasahol of the Bureau of Small and Medium Enterprise Development. Director Frederick Romero is also here from the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. And Salsabil Afifa and Nugraheni Utami of US ASEAN Business Council. Okay, let us not keep our partners from waiting and introduce the person who will lead discussion to us. Alam mo, LA, I will never forget the first time I remember this person. That was sometime in 2019 when she was the resource person of PTTC sa ating 3-day strategic planning. And I always say this, the most memorable lesson I learned from her, in verbatim, don't try to change the world. Just focus on changing your corner. Parang sa isang class lang yan eh. Reality is, hindi mo kayang baguhin lahat ng estudyante mo. Pero kung mag-focus ka sa 1, 2, o 3 estudyante na nakitaan mo ng di ba? Malay mo. Kahit hindi pa siya sa honor class, pero nakitaan mo siya ng potensyal, tinulungan mo siyang magbago, mag-improve. Malay mo itong batang to ang maging presidente ng bansa na magpapabago sa sitwasyon ng bansa o ng mundo. Eh di nakatulong din tayo to change the world. Parang tayo sa PTTC, we really focus on training our MSMEs. And sabi nga sa ating hashtag, Training Foundation Building, MSMEs are the backbone of our economy. So, would you like to do the honor? Informally introducing her?
Of course, partner, no? It would definitely be a great pleasure para ipakilala to, no? Pero bago ko ipakilala tong ating program chair, no? Partner, couldn't agree more dun sa sinabi mo kanina, no? Talagang interesting din yung sinabi ni Sir Joey kanina. Yung we should encourage not to discourage. Tama yung sinabi mo kanina, partner, no, na yun nga, kapag nakitaan mo ng potential, imbis na i-discourage mo, i-uplift mo, no? Kasi kahit hindi man natin mabago ang mundo, at least we were able to touch lives and transform lives, no? For the better. Ayan. I'm certain, partner, that we are in a very exciting and full panel discussion. So without further ado, again, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the program chair. Our program chair has held various positions both in the government and private sector. She is the former Undersecretary of the Department of Tourism, the President of ASEAN Society Philippines, Director of Management Association of the Philippines, a President of the First Philippine Tourism Congress, co-chaired the Industry and Services Committee, NEDA National Development Plan from 2017 to 2022. She has also written various articles for the newspapers on healthcare, innovation, management, and ASEAN integration. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a virtual round of applause to none other than Miss Alma Rita Jimenez.
Hello, good afternoon. I will be sharing my screen, and my internet is a little bit spotty, so I'll have to stop my video so that you can take a look at my screen. Just let me know if you can see it already. Can you see it now? Hello? Can somebody tell me if they can see the screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's in it's already sa sa screen presentation.
Yes po.
All right, sige. Thank you. Anyway, good afternoon ulit, and thank you for the kind introduction, and to all the partners and everyone joining us today for this PTTC event. The energetic team of Nelly Villera still saw the opportunity to transform the recognition into cognition, to shine this spotlight on the learning missionaries while gently reminding them that they can be learning visionaries in a changed landscape. I immediately said yes when asked to chair the panel discussion because anything that will explore how we can deliver training to the enterprises and be part of their journey to growth is worth the time. I will be joined by experts who will share their insights culled from their experiences transiting from the business, academe, and enterprise development. I am as excited as you to interact with them. You who impart knowledge and skills have the best of both worlds. You can make a living out of it, but you also have the chance to be part of transformation processes of those whom you teach and train to be better. I look at the learning process as a loop that can traverse many settings, with learners and educators exchanging roles as they navigate the continuum. We all experience this every day, but we seldom give it a thought. We conduct an hour or so of training, then we ourselves attend seminars on areas we want to enhance further. Then we go home and there is something we want to do in our mobile, but we do not know how to. So we call one of our kids to teach us how or do it for us. It's a continuous cycle of teach and learn, even for non-educators. Many call it daily living, but I call it lifelong learning. And while the formal educational system provides the structured learning system, technological advancements, especially in digital, are providing many options to acquire knowledge and skills in various ways in multiple platforms. This is a game changer because barriers to learning are being dismantled. And we now see many people who found their niches taking different pathways that deviate from the traditional. It's why we have training centers like PTTC and why we have trainers like you. You are part of a learning system that enables individuals and enterprises to develop and grow. We must keep it in mind, though, that we are just part of their journey. We are not their destination. Enterprise building is an inclusive, sustainable, and satisfying mission, especially if we are doing this for micro and small enterprises. As mentioned in the program, over 99% of business is composed of the micro, small, and medium enterprises. And that is not counting the informal economy, where many derive their incomes from. Their survival and growth will have a multiplier effect given their potential to generate livelihood and employment for many Filipinos. We salute you for making it a mission to keep imparting learning to where it can matter, not only for the enterprises in their personal development and growth aspirations, but also because their success will benefit others. But the responsibility goes beyond just imparting knowledge and skills. The true proof of concept will be how what we imparted were applied and resulted in leveling up their operations, in helping them grow and encouraging them to aspire and achieve more. There is dissatisfaction in the quality of graduates produced by the academe, and that gap is seen in jobs available versus lack of qualified people to handle them. That gap caused the search for alternative learning systems that can respond to the requirements. That gap opened our eyes that there are many ways to acquire knowledge and skills and immediately see the return on learning investment through employment or in being encouraged to be entrepreneurial and invest in business, no matter how small. In the past, the playing field for micro and small enterprises have high barriers to entry. One of the meaningful changes that the pandemic enabled was that micro and small enterprises were given a chance when big companies were not able to move the goods and services to the market. Their size did not allow them to quickly pivot. Hence, we see the likes of our small neighborhood stores cooking for the village, the small sari-sari stores doing fast sales turnover. And I'm certain you will be able to think of other similar stories. The big enabler was the access to internet and social media, truly big differentiators. And as we move towards recovery and looking at a future that in all probability will have a different landscape, the challenge, our challenge, your challenge, will now be in how to transition these mushrooming micro and small enterprises who rode on the pandemic wave to start restructuring their operation so that they can continue to operate their businesses with stability, scalability, and sustainability. That is the role that trainers and mentors are expected to play and play well. But we cannot keep doing the same things in the same way and expect a different outcome, as the oft-quoted line says. Those who teach must be the first to learn so that what they impart will be relevant, useful, and actionable to their trainees. And one of the stumbling blocks why learning objectives are oftentimes not met, particularly among the micro and small enterprise groups, is because many trainers do not spend as much time getting to know their demographics and customizing their approaches. The intention here is to impart learning, not to impress people with concepts. Those big ideas that do not get distilled into chewable pieces that will be understood and applied are clouds that just pass by. And a lot of resources, money, time, and opportunities get wasted in the process. Many of our micro and small enterprises may or may not have had significant formal education or are constrained with social barriers, and this should be taken into consideration when undertaking the training. Specific learning needs should be met not only with targeted knowledge, skills, and application, but supporting this with broader social perspective to adapt to their unique conditions. And most importantly, that they be delivered in a language they can relate to and understand. Trainings must be viewed from the broad context of long-term development process, perhaps programs, because programs, therefore, must be designed to be informative, useful, and engaging so that the trainees will be encouraged to keep improving their capabilities. The objective is for them to be able to implement the insights and skills they gained in their enterprises and be excited about what's next and towards lifelong learning. It is equally important to note that there is not one effective system that can answer a broad spectrum of training needs. This is the reason why profiling and analyzing the demographics of the target trainees should be part of the preliminary work of the trainers and facilitators in every training they will be conducting. This way, the scope, the methodologies, and the delivery will be responsive to the trainees' requirements. PTTC, as an agency that provides capability building support for MSMEs, took advantage of the hiatus of the pandemic caused to look inward and outward and see where enhancements, even transformations, can happen in the way the trainings are delivered. Today's panel discussion is in line with the PTTC's direction to ensure that all components that go into successfully carrying out these changes are on board and in step. There's energy in synergy, especially if all of these building blocks will fit beautifully, because then the enterprises win. This mini session will provide insights on how teaching delivery is evolving, rendering many of the existing methodologies and processes no longer germane to the new environment. As learners ourselves, we hope we can all reflect on the ideas that will be shared today and explore how we can be part of the transition, working to redefine the capability building programs for our MSMEs. We hope to excite you with possibilities and move the needle even a bit towards upskilling those who can influence mindsets. The pandemic is a reset, and we hope we will take advantage of the opportunity to change our own programming. So this afternoon, we are joined by 3 experts tackling the issues from the 3 different perspectives, beginning with someone who brings his consulting and mentoring hat, then with the one from an enterprise building perspective, and finally from the academic and business lens. Each of our panelists will be given 10 minutes for their brief discussion of their assigned subject matter, after which we open the floor so that the audience can join in the conversation. You can either chorus your questions or comments in the Q&A box or virtually raise your hands to chime in. We will try and accommodate as many as we can in the very short time we have. Kicking off the discussion is an organization development consultant, a certified shared leadership and team coach, certified emotional intelligence assessment practitioner, and a certified professional marketer. He is the president of the International Council for Small Business Philippines, board director of the Philippine Marketing Association, and a mentor for the Philippine Center for Entrepreneurship, Go Negosyo. Let us welcome Eric Caig, President of the Retail Academy of the Philippines. Eric, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Alma Jimenez, and good afternoon to everyone. Congratulations to PTTC, to Executive Director, Ma'am Nelly Dilera, and to the management leadership team of PTTC. Congratulations on your anniversary. First off, I would like to acknowledge, of course, PA Joey. I am a mentor for Go Negosyo for almost going 5 years now. Been with the movement of Go Negosyo for almost 15 years. And before I go to my slides, I'm going to share my slides. I would like to encourage everyone, just lend me 2 minutes of this, and I would like everyone to open your videos. You would like to do a certain exercise that would allow you to do some icebreaker. All right, so just 2 minutes. Can I request everyone to open your video? And I'd like you to bring up your hands like this, up in the air. And I would like you to make them face to face towards each other. And count of 3, I would like you to clasp your hand like this. In 3, 2, 1, face to face. All right, then I would like for you to look at what's the thumb on top. So mine is on the right. All right, some of you might be on the left. Now let's do this together again. Hands in the air, face to face, but the direction will be, kung ano yung nasa ilalim kanina, dapat nasa ibabaw ngayon. In 3, 2, 1, let's go! All right. Anong nangyari? Naku, meron na traffic, hindi nagsara. Okay. Hands in the air, face to face, and clap together. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, ano ngayon na nasa ibabaw? Yung bang nauna o yung pangalawa na sinabing kailangan nasa ibabaw? Or bumalik sa una? Maraming salamat po for indulging me with that. Now, that simple exercise allows us to remember that transformation doesn't happen in a minute or 2. It takes a process, kaya po sinabi ni Ma'am Alma, right? So it takes a lot of effort to be able to train our MSMEs. And we are with you. Just like in the marketing field, we have what we call customer journey. And inside that journey, mayroong iba-ibang experiences ang ating mga learners. Similarly, when we teach our MSMEs, they are in a journey, and at some point, iba-iba yung experiences nila, and what is important for us is to be able to make them understand the real takeaway of the lessons that we provide. So as member stakeholders in providing learning and development to our MSMEs, what do we actually do? So we choose relevant contents for our MSMEs to what they need to be able to grow, sustain their businesses. We provide various solutions in the forms of frameworks, theories, and hindi lang theories, no? Kailangan may actual experiences from various subject matter experts. And of course, even after the virtual sessions or the in-person sessions have ended, there should be follow-through. So actual mentoring after virtual or in-person classes has happened. Now, I would like to share with you some modalities that we actually use on what we call action reflection learning. These are interventions that we began inserting in our virtual delivery of our modules, right? Of course, before the pandemic, as Pedro said, mentors were being deployed all over the Philippines, and I myself was in Zamboanga Peninsula before the lockdown was announced. But then again, we have to quickly adapt towards the online. And yes, we would like to understand bakit kailangan ng conducive virtual learning experience. I'll focus my talk on virtual just because pretty much we would like to appreciate that moving towards reopening and this new normal, this evolving normal that we're in, virtual learning is here to stay. So first off, we'd like MSMEs must be able to optimize the learnings and key takeaways that the providers share with them. And naaalala natin, pagka online, yung participants, they have a very short attention span, right? And some of them, they tend to close their videos and they're disturbed by a lot of things that they do, right? Yesterday, I conducted a three-day half-day session with HCMF, and pretty much one of our rules is that all videos must be on, right? And in my mentoring over the last 5 years, we experienced mentees having difficulty with their connectivities. So these are the things that are hounded sa ating mga MSMEs. And something that we would like to remember, sinabi nga ni Ma'am Alma kanina, we should not aim to impress. We should aim for our MSMEs to be able to learn what we want them to learn. So unang-una, relevant program design. Okay? So we must make our homework and be able to match our design towards the delivery mode. And kung sino yung ating mga participants, and Ma'am Alma explicitly said earlier, we must study the demographics, and I would like to add to that also the psychographics. Okay? Then you would now know on how to interact. Second bullet says here, let us remind ourselves as learning providers that we need to match or go where they are coming from. Not all of them have similar educational backgrounds. Similarly, they may not be able to understand deep words or terms. So to be able to break in one session, here is one ARL tool that I'd like to share. It's what we call use check-in statements. So for example, if I would ask you, for this afternoon, how do you feel moving towards this session this afternoon? And if I tell you, we'll pause for 10-20 seconds, and you will press enter at the same time. After 20 seconds, participants will press enter all at the same time, and you'll be seeing different words expressing how they feel at the moment when you ask the question. Some may be enthusiastic, some are excited, some are happy, some are pleased, some are motivated and satisfied. So what does that check-in do? It allows initial break-in for the participants, knowing that yes, we are now paying attention, and it gives the speaker or the facilitator or the learning provider a clear view that yes, nakaglue sa akin ang aking mga participants. Before I open my session, I do another process called norm setting. It's co-creating with the participants on the type of behavior that they would want all participants to follow during the session. So yesterday I did that, on Monday I did that, and some of the answers that the participants gave is that we want people to be open-minded, we want people to be participative, we want people to be on time, we want people to be sharing their experiences. So all of those, when you put that on a whiteboard and you get to remind them with those norms that they co-created, that it's not only coming from the facilitator, and every time they get reminded, they are aligned. So norm setting is something that they will abide from first to the last minute or first to the last day of the session. So norm setting is different from house rules, right? So yung house rules, sabihin natin, o dapat lahat nakabukas ang video, nakamute ang mic. So iba ang norm setting. It's about their behavior during the sessions. Next, we avoid using technical terms and abbreviations, and as much as possible, using understandable language. Now, similarly, when I was going out before the pandemic and during online, if we are actually addressing our MSMEs from the regions, alam niyo, kahit yung opening sentence lang in their own dialect, halimbawa, good afternoon, good morning, right? You try to learn those, it initially makes a connection, right? And for me, my initial connection is that if I'm in the Visayas, which I would like to mention that yes, I married someone from Cebu, but was actually raised in Davao, and she actually ended up going to Zamboanga and meeting me in Manila. So you see some of the participants smiling because pag sabi kong taga Cebu yung kausap ko, pangiti sila kagad, uy, asawa niya, taga Danao yung nanay, di ba? So there's immediate connection, because online it's very difficult to keep them glued, especially when I'm delivering 4 to 8 hours learning session. Now, something that is also very useful, kanina kay Ma'am Amla, very nice graphics, no? Now, something that you would want to make relevant of is that if you have a particular group coming from a particular place or region, you would want to adapt your infographics towards them. Okay, so for example, I'm speaking to my mentees from Davao, for example, and what I do actually is get pictures from the website of Davao City and put it there, right? So I wouldn't be putting products of other regions that they may not be relevant to the participants, right? And secondly, just like what I did during the first opening minutes on this session, you would like to make your class interactive. And one of the ARL tools is what we call SRWR, right? And similarly, like the check-in question, check-in statement, SRWR would allow your participants to pause, discern, and reflect. And at least when they click the enter, the answer that they give is something that they process for a quick period of time, right? So SRWR. Then calibrate the answers or feedbacks if you really have time and if there are not so many participants. So yesterday I had 45 participants and I had the HR partner to read with me the answers. So we read all the answers and the calibration goes at the end. So at least nakikita nila, okay, na-interpret ng facilitator yung aking sinabi. Diba? And it counts. Okay, something very important is that our participants would feel and know what they're contributing actually counts. Next, we would like to learn, for most of us, we are actually using Zoom. There are other learning platforms that we actually use, but we would like to learn the features, right? So there are features like the Mentimeter, the whiteboard. It's something beautiful for your participants to be able to see na, wow, okay, something's happening, something new is happening, something new is being done by my facilitator. Now, the breakout rooms, it's there, but what you need to do is to give them a guide. My guide is actually this. If you're 6 in a team and in one breakout, you have to pair and have a learning partner. And that group discussion, right? In that group discussion, they'll be able to exchange notes. And later on, when they go back to the room, they'll be able to explicitly share what they have discussed. So learning partners may differ day to day, or in my case, for the last 3 days, from Monday to Wednesday, they have the same learning partners. But then again, when everybody gets to share in the plenary, something beautiful that they don't only learn from their specific partner, but from all the other participants as well. Going towards the end of our session, we would like to punctuate it with a debrief. And a debrief goes like a simple question, just like what we have here in this slide. So with one word, how do you feel after this afternoon session, right? Or you would like to ask, what is that one thing that resonated to you from all of the modules that we discussed today? Or if it is actually the ending of a 3-day, if they could actually tell you now what was that resonating to you for the last 3 days. And you appreciate that your participants actually recall the sharing that you did. And something more important is that after session, after every day, we actually have post-test. And the post-test is actually not really very difficult, but just to calibrate in writing, and they will have to submit it either to the HR or to the facilitator, roll out a short assessment, and the facilitator would have to have a feedback. And on day 2, we'll have to calibrate that. So there's a continuity. Okay, if I'm talking about a 1 or 2 or even 3 days series of modules or trainings, right? So this is something that you can actually employ, the ARL tools, action, reflection, learning, something that we are doing as coaches as well in the ICF. Now, in my closing slides, I would just like to introduce to you who we are in ICSB. So ICSB is International Council for Small Business. We are aligned with a global organization that is partnering with other global partners like United Nations, IFC, World Bank, ILO, and OECD. We are 104 members, and we are a knowledge-based organization. But our sphere of membership comes from different pillars, from entrepreneur practitioners, researchers, educators, policymakers from government, and the professionals. Yes, we are the only country from the 191 countries of ICSB that has the professionals, because we believe from the larger practitioners in corporation, their expertise can actually be learned by our MSMEs. Because nonetheless, all MSMEs would want to grow their businesses similar to larger corporations. And we have here, of course, our next speaker who's with me as well. And some here are from the pharma, the bank. They're coming from different disciplines, and together we banded as a knowledge hub. We have a platform addressing 60,000 MSMEs with 60 asynchronous modules, 14 tracks, and addressing the needs of various MSMEs with the concept of self-directed learning. Similarly, online, but then again, the advantage for asynchronous learning is that it's flexible, it's modular, it has certain speed to it, it has privacy, it's interactive, and cost-wise for the learner and for the provider, it's very manageable. And the learning style, we're able to address learning styles because it is now dependent on the availability of the learner. And there's also evaluation and feedback, and the ease of distribution of the literature. And it has consistency of delivery. Right. Okay, so I hope I was able to give you some insights as far as how do we actually customize the learning experience for our MSMEs. So maraming salamat po. Congratulations again to PTTC.
Thank you very much, Eric. No, that was very short but loaded. What do you call this? Loaded presentation. And we move on to the next member of our panel. I will introduce him now. Can you see the screen now? Kasi sayang naman pag hindi niyo makita yung ating very young panelist. Just answer me, yes, okay. Square Labs is one of the enterprises that is catching attention because it is introducing innovations into traditional education by providing access to those who want to upskill. The group is composed of young visionaries seeking to bring cutting-edge and exciting educational experiences for our learners. Now, Aurelian Chu, I hope I pronounced his name right, oversees the educational experiences at Square Labs. Passionate about advancing understanding of decision science and bringing together advanced data skills and business strategy frameworks to unearth novel insights. Baka sabihin natin, very young naman siya, but you see, he's loaded with credentials. He graduated from UC Berkeley and prior to Square Labs, worked as a management consultant, focused on education and employment topics in different countries in frontier markets, and a research analyst with the US-based technology transfer organization. A strategy consultant with Dalberg Global Development Advisors, he provided strategic analysis and economic research for a variety of clients, including the governments of countries like Nigeria, Morocco, Mali, etc., and multilateral institutions such as World Bank and different United agencies. Aurelian is a national of France, Belgium, and the USA. He speaks French and English. I hope he does not talk to us in French, but he graduated, as I said, with a degree in economics and business administration. He is part of the group that were listed as Forbes 30 under 30 for social impact. So let us hear from an energetic and young speaker, Aurelian, co-founder and COO of Square Labs. Over to you, Aurelian.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that charming introduction. And I'm very excited to get to speak to all of you today about alternative learning systems and the future of work, which is a topic that I have a huge amount of passion for. As someone who, like all of you, I think, has gone through the traditional education system and thought at different points, is this going to be the future of learning? Are there other ways in which we could learn that could be a little bit more suitable for the increasingly technology-driven world that we are entering? And so with that, I want to talk a little bit about what we do at Square Labs in terms of an alternative system for learning, which is project-based learning for data skills. So just as a brief context, the COVID pandemic has accelerated for many businesses moving online. I'm sure many of you might already be doing online operations, whether you're in education or in other sorts of businesses, including digital selling. And as businesses move online, they collect more and more data. And this is one of the huge macroeconomic trends that we see around the world, is as more data is collected, we push this thing called the fourth industrial revolution. And the businesses that are able to use data really are the ones who capture the benefits of digitization and the fourth industrial revolution. But in order to get value from data, you need to have skills. You need to have data literacy skills. And this is a huge obstacle because data for many people is seen as a challenging technical subject. Very few people have strong formal access to data skills. And that's why we see that in countries like the Philippines, data scientists actually command some of the highest salaries because they have some of the rarest skills in the workforce. And so that's where Square Labs comes in. We are pioneering a different way of learning so that we can provide project-based learning for individuals and company teams to learn data skills. And in particular, this is an alternative system of learning because we know that if we try the old traditional ways of teaching technical subjects, half of the class will just, maybe fall asleep, and the other half will think, oh, this is pretty challenging, and it's not really that interesting. So what we want to do is find a way to break down these complex technical skills into an experience that's accessible to learners from all backgrounds. And that's where we really bring in with our team from different backgrounds. How do we make data relevant for everyone? And how do we turn data into projects? And then instead of learning data, it's about doing projects. And doing projects is something that people find a lot easier to do because it's hands-on, because it's tangible, and because you're working directly with the tools instead of sitting and listening to theory and lectures. And so that to us is something that we see as a bit of the future of learning. And just as a quick introduction to how do we design this learning system. So first off, what you see here is something that's a little bit of a diagram showing how projects are often developed in the world of technology. So if you were at Google, this is something similar to how they're developing their projects. And so what we wanted to do is create a way of learning that replicates a project in, say, a cutting edge technology situation. And then what we do is we take that project and turn it into something that students will do. So this is an example from one of our most advanced courses where students get to apply artificial intelligence and machine learning to develop a project. And so you can see that what happens is we break down the days, just like in the business world, you will break down your projects into different days, and then we just get started on it. The key difference, though, is that this isn't a typical business project. This is a learning project. So every part of the project has been thought of because every day we're going to learn some new tools. We're going to do something that we don't know how to do before. And so every day you're going to have to get coached so that you're able to do the part of the project that's relevant for that day. And that's really where the learning experience comes in. And so if you were to think of traditional education is, the lecture, and then there's the homework. This is actually very different. This is much more like if you go to a company and they assign you a project and you don't know what that project is exactly, but you have an amazing manager or a senior member of the team who comes and sits with you and helps you to do that project every day, helps coach you, helps train you to be able to conduct that. And by the end of the week or the course, you have finished your project and you can show it off. And now you know how to do that project again. And so this is what we've been working on. We think it's much more an adaptation of what really good on-the-job training would look like. And it's been something that we've seen companies really enjoy because oftentimes they get to choose a project and they say, well, we want a project that's relevant for us, right? Not something abstract, but something that we can actually use right now. And so I'll give a couple of examples of some of these things that students have worked on, from very simple projects to much more advanced projects. So here's a simple one that we did with a business, right? This is an online selling business, and this is a typical selling business. They do collect data from the website, but they don't know how to analyze their website. And so what we can do with some of their team members is we work together to build a simple dashboard and for them to get to learn and understand, how do we use a dashboard? What do these graphs mean? Does this graph mean that actually we should focus having more promotions early in the morning because we see that most of our customers are early in the morning? Do we see that we have spikes? Do we see that different days of the week is where we should focus our efforts? These are the kinds of things that help a small business understand how to make data-driven decisions, so that instead of saying, oh, I know that on Tuesday I have slightly more customers than on Monday. Now you can say exactly on Tuesday we have on average 4.5 customers, and on Monday we only have 1.5. So those are an example of a really simple data project that helps get people started with some of the most useful data tools. And then after that, it only gets more and more advanced. There's always more opportunities. Once you've gotten started with data, what's very exciting about this field is that it's constantly growing and there's constantly new ways to use it. So here's another example. Again, let's say an online selling business. And when you have an online selling business, sometimes what you want to do is you want to bundle products. So instead of selling one thing, you might want to know that, oh, when I sell avocados, I could sell it with pineapples. And if I bundle them together and put a discount on it, more people will buy that. But how do I know that I should bundle avocados with pineapple? Well, when I look at the data, I can see what kinds of product bundles are the best selling. And that's a slightly more advanced kind of data analytics, but something that one can do even using totally free software that exists, even with a course that's only been a couple of weeks long. You can already do some of these things that are very, very useful. And then, of course, we have, other applications, right? Especially now that businesses can work with online freelancers who have data science skills. How do you work with someone who can do prediction models? So predicting customer churn or predicting employee churn. These are things that are projects that we can do with as a learning project. And forecasting demand. This is, of course, a very popular type of learning project. So that's a little bit about some of our approach, which is to move away from theory and to do everything through learning projects. Because when you have to do a project, you learn only the things that are relevant to you. And for that, it's important to pick the right project, a project that's really relevant and tangible for your business or for your team or for your personal life. And then what we see is it also makes people more excited about learning because it's building something that's real. It's not abstract. A few other aspects of project-based learning that I think are maybe some of the direction of alternative learning systems. There is one is social learning. So social learning is the idea that, we went through school, we had grades and exams and all of this competition that happens in schools. But to make a really successful team in a business, it's not about competition, it's about collaboration. And what's most important is that the team is able to produce the project. And so we found that, by doing away with those types of traditional things, we focus on being able to work together to build these projects, which is just like in the real world for skills like data. These are things where working alone is oftentimes not as good as working in a group. And then, of course, meta habits. So I think Sir Eric has already shared a little bit about how to develop workshops that really foster positive attitudes, not just learning the skills. And that's definitely at the heart of what we do. And for that, we have been certified by Education Alliance Finland as a marker of pushing the boundaries on this type of progressive education. So I think that caps off on my side just a little bit of an introduction into project-based learning in the context of data, which I think many think of as a very technical skill, but a skill that people from any background can learn as long as we find a project that's relevant. And I think with that, if there's anyone who has any questions for us, I recommend to send an email to emily@esquilabs.com. She is our representative, and she'd be happy to discuss with you if you want to discuss how to design a project for a team or for a client of yours, as well as, of course, if you're looking to recruit data scientists and analysts, we can provide links for that as well. So with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I hope it has been interesting to see something of what we see as the education of the fourth industrial revolution.
Thank you very much, Aurelian. You know what? I was listening to you, but I'm also feeling my age. And it's because you're talking now the language of the generations taking over the leadership post-pandemic, which is the Gen Z, and the millennials and the Gen Z. So I think the trainers would be welcoming the idea of also picking up from the sharing that you did, because really, in the future, if you cannot speak the language of the people who'll be taking over all of these enterprises, then it's going to be very difficult for the trainers. So let me just proceed to the introduction of our new speaker, if you can see it now on your screen. So, Sin na, Sin? Hello? So can you see anyway, you can see the slide, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
It is very difficult to pick what I want to say about our next families, because his body of work is really filled with accomplishments and he's smiling. And I don't think he has even reached his prime. Dr. Donald Patrick Lim is the Chief Operating Officer of DITO CME and the Chief Innovation Officer of the Udena Corporation. And prior to his current role, he has served in various leadership capacities in the media, advertising, and digital spaces. Having been the country CEO of Dentsu, Chief Digital Officer of ABS-CBN, Managing Director of MRM, and this is where I got to know him as CEO of Yehi Corporation. You have to admit that's one of the pioneers of digital. And Dr. Donald is a true student of management, being a product of the program of Ateneo de Manila University, finishing his MBA with distinction from Murdoch University, and then moved on to finish his Doctor in Business Administration from the University of Phoenix. He currently teaches e-marketing at the Graduate School of De La Salle and the IMC program at the UANP, or University of the Asia and Pacific, and advanced strategic management for the doctoral program of San Pedro University. He is one of the only 24 certified professors your title by the Canadian Institute of Entrepreneurship. You know, Donald, while I was reading this, I never realized, because you're just a body to me, MAP. At grabe pa lang. And awarded the Dr. Bienvenido Tantoco Senior Professorial Chair in Marketing by Jose Rizal University. He is considered one of the founding fathers of digital marketing in the Philippines. And among other recognitions, one of the 10 Outstanding Young Men Award for Community Building in Digital Media. He's the founding president of the Internet and Mobile Marketing Association of the Philippines, and he currently sits as a governor, in fact, my governor in charge for CEO Conference and vice president of the Management Association of the Philippines.
Thank
Friends,
you.
let's welcome
Yusek
Dr.
Alma.
Donald.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see you again here. Again, it's always a privilege, no? There are many things I've learned early in life, and one is never say no to Yusek Alma. So here I am. I'm going to give my perspective lang, no, on innovation and technology, no, learning and marketplace platforms. Hopefully, this gives you an idea also, as we're heavily invested in this space also. As how I was introduced, so I'll go quickly with my slides now. So I'm currently the Chief Innovation Officer of the Udena Group of Companies. So together we have many publicly listed company under us: Phoenix, Wendy's, Contis, no. So yun mas familiar sa inyo, no. Enduran. So we have a school, we have PH Resorts, at Chelsea Logistics, Starlight Ferries, no. And of course, I'm also COO for DITO CME, which under it is the third telco, among others. At the same time as how I was introduced, I'm also a professor in various universities. I've been teaching for more than 10 years. So medyo gamay ko na rin yung space na yun, and education and teaching is always and has always been in my blood. So let me start my presentation. We have always been saying that we live in a digital world. And we know that since the year 2000, a lot of things have changed. Tawag nila, di ba? Before 2000 is analog, no? And then after that, after the year 2000, when the internet really started the ball rolling, that is when everything started to become digital. And that's why they said that digital is an age. It follows the industrial age. So in the 16th century, there's what you call the 16th and 17th century, they call it the Renaissance age. 18th and 19th century, the industrial age. 20th and 21st century is now the digital age. So whether we like it or not, everything is now digital, and whatever we do will now be anchored on digital technologies and devices. At the same time, because of that reality, we have seen also how occupations have changed and how people create value and make money. In the early stages of the caveman, no, there's what you call the hunter, the grower, and the warrior. Later on in the industrial age, no, fast forward, you see the mechanizer, the industrialist, the elder, and the corporate executive. And finally, you have today, no, in the digital age, everyone is now what we call a startup founder. And in my experience, I remember 20 years ago, no, some of you who have are the same age as myself, no, who have been working for more than 20 years, no, we follow a certain path. Alam natin na pag, for example, when you are a marketing student, in your 20s, no, you learn, no, and you're a marketing assistant and executive. When you're in your 30s, you execute na, no, level 4 to 6, what I call level 4 to 6. You're a marketing officer or a supervisor. When you're on your 40s, then that's when you learn tactical, no? So you're a marketing manager. And then pagdating mo sa 50s, no, which is my bosses that time, mga 50-year-olds, then you learn strategy. You become a vice president for marketing or a chief marketing officer. Diba? So my field is marketing, and that was the ladder. I was trained and I was raised, no? So every decade, I have to keep on moving up. What we didn't realize was that, but this was pre-2000. After the year 2000, things changed. The gap shortened to the point na in mga 20s, you are expected to learn and execute as soon as possible. By the time that you're 30s, makita mo, no, nandito na yung mga brand managers, early 30s. In fact, I've seen even in the likes of Unilever and Procter & Gamble, where late 20s pa lang, brand managers na sila, no, of major brands, no, or chief marketing officer na, where you are expected to be tactical and strategic. In fact, by the time you're 40s, you are taught to level 11, which was never been ideated before. No, you have to create, you start to innovate. So sometimes you are already a consultant, a CEO, and an entrepreneur. But as we've seen, no, fast forward, no, yung year 2000, and then fast forward to 2010, 2015, nakita natin, we've seen that the marketing industry, or any industry for that matter, anything goes. In fact, I was in a presentation yesterday. Someone was pitching to me, no, his ideas. And I asked, parang ang bata nito. Well, blockchain ang pinag-uusapan, no? He was pitching a cryptocurrency to me and a blockchain concept. So I asked, how old are you? He said, I'm a graduate of Mapua and 22 years old. And I'm a CEO of my company already. And when I asked, how big is your company? Malaki. Well, hindi kami malaki. Unlike Udena and Dito. No, mga 70 employees lang kami, mga 100 million yung benta namin, no, revenue. So we're quite small. And I had to correct him and said that's not small anymore. At 22, you're at 100 million, you're CEO of this company, you have 70 employees. That's a major responsibility on your hand already. Right? And that's why you're seeing, no, that because of digital, the ideas and all the opportunities now abound. It is up to you how you want to make that happen. How you want to realize your dreams, no? The World Economic Forum calls the year 2021 the Great Reset, no? So the Great Reset meaning that the height of COVID and everything that really happened, it's a good time for us to really relook at our world, no? And that time it's also a commitment that of the World Economic Forum to jointly and urgently build the foundations of the global economic and social system for a more fair, sustainable, and resilient future. Because what we realize is that during this COVID pandemic, the institutions that have brought us, right, to where we are today have crumbled, and everything has to be reset. So Klaus Schwab, the chairman of the World Economic Forum, said, no, the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. And that's why even for big companies are now very much challenged. And even the small companies are now trying to beat their breast and saying, kaya kitang labanan. And that is why for most of you, especially those who are the MSMEs, you realize, no, that the big ones who have a lot of malls in whatever, in SM, in Ayala, in Robinsons or whatever, right now they're bearing the brunt of the OPEX, no, yung operational expenses nila, they have to pay rent. And those who have really mastered digital are the ones earning a lot of money or are the ones maximizing and optimizing these digital opportunities. Right? So biglang nag-even out ang playing field, no? Before there was a bit of pride, no? I remember 20 years ago when working, I have some classmates working in the IBMs that time, the Microsofts, and the the big multinationals, right? We are Anderson Consulting yung Accenture before. We're part of this group who has 10,000, hindi 10,000, 100,000 employees globally. And yet, before, di ba, parang shy ka pag consultant ka, may tatlo lang kami in our company. And yet today, most of the young ones, they're very proud. Tatlo lang kami, but we're earning a lot of money. Wala kaming office. We hold our meetings in coffee shops, right? So there we've seen, no, that things have changed. And sino ang hindi nagbago? The educational institutions, which I'm a part of. If you look at how things are being taught, di ba? Ganun ang reality. Follow the syllabus, structured, step by step, because that has been tried and tested. And I have always been very vocal na sinasabi ko, yung syllabus na tried and tested, correct, that's not wrong. But that has been tried and tested, right, for a professional that is for the 20th century, not 21st century. Pre-digital yan, tried and tested. In fact, what we've seen is that the learning of today is now very different. So those who said that digital transformation today is still years away, I don't see our company or our institutions having to change anytime soon. Biglang got the jolt of their life when COVID-19 came in and really disrupted all of them. You've seen how a lot of things have changed, no? And that in 2015 and now fast forward 5 more years, how the priorities, no, or what are the top 10 skills? Of course, complex problem solving is very important, no? But right now, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment, service orientation, negotiation, cognitive flexibility, all of these are now the new skills. And in fact, that's why also when I teach, no, so I usually teach grad school. I don't teach mga college, no, more on the grad school. I would always tell them, pinaka-important sa akin yung complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity. Yun ang talagang top 3, paikot-ikot. In fact, I want to advocate nga even in our institutions that we have to have a course in critical thinking, kahit na 3-unit course yan, to challenge the norms so that we take certain leaps forward and not just regurgitating what is there, right? Regurgitating what's there and what has been done and what has been successful, because we know that would not be what will bring us to the level of success today. If you look at the disruptions, no, whether it's Uber, Airbnb, all of these companies, no, Uber has world's largest taxi company that owns no taxis, Airbnb owns no real estate, among many others. What is now the future of education and what platforms? Before the platform, when you talk about platform, hindi natin maisip anong platform, because you need an institution, you need a physical structure, right? When you talk about a school. And yet we realize, no, 15 years from now, more than half the universities will be in bankruptcy. Universities got digitally disrupted, right? And a lot of the universities are now fighting back. And a lot of even the US, Australian universities have really came in, no? So ano yung responses? Do nothing, do what everyone does, right? Ano yung talagang kailangan gawin? What are you doing to ward off disruptions? So a lot of the universities that were disrupted, right? They had to set up online tutorials, instructional videos, right? Various content hosting platforms for online learning became very popular, among many others. And that also sprung a lot of opportunities for all of us to keep on learning our craft. No? If you look at yesterday, no, digital disruption of education, we're seeing that it's unidirectional learning, frontal teaching, grading. Nakakatawa, di ba? Nakakahiya. Ngayon, ganun pa rin tayo minsan. It was COVID who really shook us up and said, okay, try nyo nga mag-Zoom, try nyo nga mag-Google Classroom or Canvas, whatever, right? And start teaching naman online and then really go to how your audience have already evolved. Today, some very few digital content, weekly demand-oriented training, di pa rin masyado expert mga teachers. I've experienced where a lot of my co-faculties, no, especially during startup, paano mo mag-Zoom, di marunong, right? Where do I click? Where do I do? How do we maximize certain platforms? But now, we're seeing already, and we have to be open that for tomorrow, digital education index ang kailangan rather than grades. We want collaborative learning thanks to digitization and completely individual learning. So for me, even ako, when I conduct my classes, so I conduct my class on Saturdays, wala yung grading sa dulo, wala nang exam, right? But I will grade you as how you engage in your classroom. I always have breakout rooms. I give them a problem. I will see how they solve. I will move from one breakout to the other, no, and analyze them and see how they interact. And that's why all of these platforms have come up. Coursera, for example, right, are now offering free courses online. In fact, ako naging as an educator, I always believe, no, kailangan I have to constantly learn, no. So nag-start ako sa cybersecurity because that's my field, no. Consumer neuroscience, so mahirap yan kasi Copenhagen Business School 84 lang ang grade ko, pero pumasa naman. Pero I started learning all of these, no, and we realized, no, that a lot of things you can really learn a lot of things if you just research. What is more important is for you to be an expert in your craft so that you can speak with authority, right? Whatever you are selling, no. And ang maganda is like for some of these schools, no, 2019 ko pa nga ito kinuha, most of them are really free, no, or you pay a small amount and you get that certificate, right? One of the biggest disruptors of online platforms was actually Udacity. Udacity came in and said, you know, Coursera, you give meron kang mga certificate, pero ang Udacity, ang ginawa nila was to create what they call nano degrees. And one of these nano degrees was, for example, in digital marketing. Pag natapos mo, if you finish that nano degree, you can actually get a hired, no? Or at the very least, your CVs will be sent to Facebook, to Google, and to Hootsuite. Right? So, pag self-driving car engineer, your CV, no? Or actually, sabi nga nila, parang highest probability to get hired by Mercedes-Benz, Nvidia, no? Among others. And what are some of the courses? For example, nano degree. Tawag nila nano, no? Smaller degree, 0.0000. Turn data into insights, right? So data analytics, 3 months lang siya. Now, in 3 months, no, once you graduate that, no, in 3 months, your salary will move up from 85 to 90,000 US already, right? Which is very high, no? So 4.55 million a year na, no? Almost ano na, 60,000 a month, no? And then what will happen is that if you look at your investment, it's just $500. So one time $500, and then after 3 months, you've already become a skilled worker, no? Kaya sabi ko dapat yung test na natin, yung mga probabilities, no? When we teach, we can do something like this, so something that's cheap, but automatically it's very skilled. During the pandemic, I saw the opportunity. In fact, I tried downloading not only in Coursera, nag-aral din ako sa Harvard Medical School. I took up telemedicine kasi we might venture into this space. I refreshed my Google, no? I refresh my learning in digital, and also because I'm a chief innovation officer, I'm one of the first Filipino to finish an ISO in innovation management systems. No? So you always have to keep on learning. No? And then one of my biggest advocacies, because what we realized was that I was talking about Coursera, I was talking about Udacity. I felt that we should have something. No, we should have something that's something very local, and that prompted me to start what is called Luna Academy. This is very local already. No? So allow me again, as a disclosure, no, I'm part of Luna Academy. This is under the Dito CME group, no, where we launched last year. In fact, if you look at a lot of platforms, you can screenshot this, no. So makita mo, no, local, meron tayong course belt, no. There's a lot of courses in there, no, around 16. If you look at regional, these are either India or certain countries, no. Upgrad, Simply Learn, and Eruditus, no, are some of the courses, no. Well, some of the learning platforms, and of course, global would be Coursera and Udemy. In Luna Academy, ganun din, no. So we're neck and neck. You can actually go ahead and try. I'm not even promoting Luna. You can go out and look at all of these platforms because where you can really learn. Some are free, some are a bit more expensive, and that's fine. But again, the essence is that as an entrepreneur and as an educator, you have to keep on learning, right? In Luna Academy, we partner with Microsoft, Enderon, because we have a school, and among many others. In fact, we partnered with Sage, School of Agility, Grit, and Entrepreneurship. So we also teach entrepreneurs, no? So for tech, we believe na yung tech kasi during the pandemic, kulang yung upskilling, no? They were naipit sila sa bahay. So we partnered with Microsoft, Amazon Web Services, Google, among others, and we were teaching this. So once you get these specific skills, automatically we know these are very much in demand already. In fact, a lot of people who are taking up these courses are from abroad. They're saying na pag-uwi namin, kasi nga from abroad, engineers were abroad, pag-uwi nila, wala silang work. So nag-aral na sila kagad. So para pag-uwi, certified na sila, no? And of course, at the same time, there are other courses like, of course, Enderon, CDM, among many others. No, so I won't go through this in detail. You could check out lunaacademy.ph. It's an experimental, it's a 1-year-old project, but our essence and our focus is to identify and create skills for the local market. No? And it's again self-paced, hybrid, and again others. No? So recently, I just finished pati blockchain. Sabi ko, you have to be continuous learning. So ito, recently, January lang, tinapos ko rin, certified blockchain. Not in Luna Academy. You can go to Blockchain Council. They will train you and then you finish the exam, which is very tough, 2-hour exam. No? But for me, again, let me end by saying, no, the learning is a mindset. You can attend all the seminars you want, but if you don't apply it, wala rin. You can also be very successful, but if you do not keep on improving, especially at today's age, you cannot move forward also. So with that, I'll end here and then we'll open the floor for questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Donald. Grabe. Pati ako na-challenge, hindi na pala ako siguro pwede mag-trainer in the future. There's so many requirements for me to do. So with those kinds of, what you call this, questions, ideas from our panelists, it really is giving us many food for thought. So while you are trying to, what you call this, trying to see, you're trying to compose the questions in your head, I will just try and can the host pin the pictures, or what to call this, the video, ano ba tawag yan, video windows ng ating mga panel discussants, so they will be seen? Is that possible? So I think hindi yata nakaka-audio yung ating mga yung ating mga control. So anyway, I will assume that you're seeing the screen now. You can see it, Donald, ano?
Yeah, we can. I can see it.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So siguro I will just shoot the first question for the three panelists to answer. You gave us a lot of inputs about where you think learning and education is going. So my question is, what should the trainers and the facilitators, how should they prepare for a very, very different future? So siguro, Donald, you can answer, then we go to Eric, and then we go to Aurelien.
Sure. Ako, Ma'am Alma, ako talagang it's really the mindset. We have to accept the fact, no, that as a trainer we are also there to learn from our students. No, I'll give you a very interesting anecdote. I've been teaching digital marketing for more than 10 years, starting in LaSalle, no, and then moving to many universities. I was the first to create the syllabus for digital marketing. And what I realized was that when I started teaching, I was learning a lot from the students. After 10 years, I already gave a recommendation to the school na digital marketing should not be taught anymore because all the students are already digital. I have nothing else to learn from them. They're the ones completely teaching me already. So I think that's for the trainers. You have to have that certain level of confidence, humility, and at the same time acceptance that you are there, and it's a collaboration with everyone. You will never go into a classroom now. I would say, even if you're an expert, let's say marketing kasi very fluid. Even if you're a lawyer, legal teacher, or an engineer, you cannot go in the classroom and say you're the expert and they cannot rebut you. No, and I think that's the space we have to accept. No, and that's when you realize, no, that with an open conversation, discussion, that's when real education will flourish, because you are now learning from one another rather than it's a one-way directed learning.
Yeah. So Eric, I think I mentioned that also, that it's now a loop. Learning is a loop. Yep. You are both an educator and learner all the time, and we should be comfortable circling that loop all the time. So Eric, your take, please.
Yeah, Ma'am Alma, I'll compliment what Dr. Donald mentioned. No? Ako, when I start my sessions, I always have this first slide that states, no one holds the monopoly of answers to things. And somehow it reminds the speaker, facilitator, or the learning provider that you are there also to co-learn with your participants. And somehow in every session that I do, there's always this person whom I call the assistant professor. Who is this? A participant would be able to, bring his black belt in class and show others that he's a lot more knowledgeable than the others. And the facilitator should be able to, balance it out and somehow get the others to participate as well. And as a learning provider, yung lifelong learner, we're sharing knowledge, and somehow what we know may become obsolete over time. So it's time for us to really go as far as what we can learn.
Yes. So Aurelien, what about you?
I think I would echo a lot of what Sir Eric just shared. I think for us, it's about moving away from the mentality of, oh, I need to learn this, And once I've learned this, then I'm done. It's really about learning how to learn. And once you've learned how to learn, and learning how to learn is less a skill than it is a mindset. The people with that attitude of, I want to continue learning, they're the ones that we see really, really succeed in the fourth industrial revolution. And they're the ones that we see, starting businesses that really succeed or taking their companies to the next level, because the world is constantly changing. The tools are constantly changing, and the people that can change with it really, really benefit from that. And those who are more in the mindset of, oh, I learned this once, I don't need to keep on learning, they're the ones I think who don't do so well in that environment.
I would like to at least remind our participants that they can actually join the conversation. And for that, we'd like to request the help of PTTC GMEA, just in case to help us, to give us the questions in case we cannot read it. But there's something in this, what do you call this? It's from Rino the Tuwin, and he says, the reality is that many MSMEs are still in the analog age without online presence. Many business owners do not even study how to run a business. So how do we begin teaching them? What are your thoughts on this? So may we have the thoughts of our panelists on this question from Rino the Tuwin.
Yep. Okay. I'll go first. Entrepreneurs are masters of their businesses, and somehow when they go to a class, they have that, they carry that sense of pride that I've started my business, I'm in this level already, but somehow I need to learn. Some of those things might not be familiar to them, like technology, and something that is important, as Dr. Donald said, the pandemic really hit us hard and make us realize na kailangan mo to ngayon. No? So even the basics of the basics, the entrepreneurs must be able to climb and really exert some effort to learn it. Even basic using Zoom, Facebook, and all of these basic digital tools for MSMEs. And normally they're looking for something that's free. So at least gamitin lang ng tama yung libre. Kasi minsan libre na hindi pa magamit ng tama. Right? So it starts with actually getting the right device to be able to be online.
Yeah. Right. So
ako let me add Yusek. Ako alam mo, I remember I was doing my I was in corporate but at the same time I'm starting my business on the side, di ba? I was doing some business, and at the same time after that, ang yabang ko, nakuha ko MBA ko, Master in Business. Then after a few more years, I finished my doctorate in business. Right? And one time I was so proud, and arrogant. And my dad reminded me, sabi niya, ikaw doktor ka. Pero anong negosyo mo, kahit i-combine mo lahat ng negosyo mo, mas malaki pa negosyo ko. And sabi niya, I finished from UE, I didn't even pass my CPA exam, I just did my business. Everything was the pulse of the business. Right? Wala akong aral-aral. If I studied everything like you, I would have failed. Right? And then you begin to realize, and that's what I said. Sabi ko, alam mo, tama makes sense. Sometimes a lot of entrepreneurs, sometimes you know the answer. Your pulse already will tell you what to do.
Yeah,
intuitive. And then because you're not confident, you look at the book.
That's right. Correct. So intuitive.
Yeah, and I think that's the mindset, no? Entrepreneurs in my experience are like what you said, tama, Misama, intuitive. Alam mo eh. And the entrepreneurship is in the blood. So when you go and you put your passion there, you just have to understand what's your strength, what's your weakness, who can complement you, right? If you ask Henry C. and Gokong Wei, did they do segmentation, targeting, positioning? Did they do did they analyze all of them? They don't. But they know what to do, right? And sometimes we also do not have to overthink a lot of things. Important yung training, important. So kasi I was just reacting na many people did not even study how to run because you don't study that. Right? Maybe you need help. Maybe we can do. Actually, I laud the efforts of DTI because you're reaching out to the people. You have all of these mentoring sessions. I mean, that's enough. Ano bang gusto mong aralin? Diba? But you have to, beyond your business, go and be exposed to all of these, what like the DTI is doing, all of these. Be exposed, and then you will find your way already. You don't have to overthink. Yun lang, ma'am.
So, Renan, what's your take on that? Being the youngest and very data-driven.
Yes. I mean, I think there's definitely a challenge, but I can see that I think every new generation of people starting a business, they're always more hooked into the tools that are becoming mainstream. Obviously, there are challenges to internet access, there are challenges to infrastructure, but over time, those challenges are getting better, right? There are more and more customers that are online. There are more and more tools that are accessible. Now you can't run a business without, a phone. But that was once a big, technological shift as well. And so I think, for MSMEs, I think to adapt to this is something that we've seen happen elsewhere in the world. It's something that we're seeing happen slowly. Maybe it's more at the beginning in the Philippines, but it is happening, and it's going to get bigger and bigger because this is kind of the trend that's taking everything, the corporate world, the government world, and so on. And I think this is also, of course, there's big opportunities for the government to accelerate this, and I think what DTI and PTTC are doing right now is an example of accelerating that transition to being informed MSMEs that can really leverage the tools and the knowledge to take their business to the next level.
Yeah, that's a very good point because Alan Gozon was chiming in, and he says, I would agree with Mr. Lim, but if you have the intuition and coupled it with knowledge and skills, what do you think? How far can an SME go? Well, siguro one of the things that we just, I'm weighing on this question, and I will just say that the conditions obtaining during the time of Gokong Ways and the Seas are not the conditions obtaining now. You see, even everyone will say that you're without online presence, lalo na nitong pandemic, when we had this pandemic, you are no longer, if you're not visible, you're not the business anymore. So whether we like it or not, you're going to be trampled over if you do not have that presence. So if you intend to survive and stay in the business for a long time, you have to really pivot to the digital, because that's where it's like speaking a language that nobody can understand anymore if you're not in the digital. So that's what it did to us, and I think we need to make sure that we are on board this one. And that siguro the challenge for the trainers is, how do you make it interesting? How do you make them go to you and say, I want to learn this, and I'm really, really very eager about transitioning to this technology. So yan ang challenge natin. Paano mo siya magagawa interesting enough so that people will want to engage, especially the SMEs, as you said, who doesn't even know what digital is. So there's one question. While I'm waiting for the other questions, one of the things. Yes, Eric.
No. Sige. Come na, Eric.
Sige, Eric.
Ma'am, yung tanong ni Sir Alan resonated with me. 22 years ago, I had 3 classmates, and one of them was actually just sampling her ensimada to the different sections. Tatlong section kami. And every time that ensimada is entering the room, wow, may merienda tayo. Sabi ko, ano bang brand ito? Walang brand yun. Basta nagpapatikim siya, masarap, laging ang taas ng rating namin. And to cut this long story short, she is now present in most of the major malls, and she's called Mary Grace Cafe.
Wow.
And the other guy is, a part of a team who is selling French fries. And just recently, he sold it to another conglomerate. And his name is Joe Magsaysay, who's also a partner of McDonald's. And the other guy, the last guy, is a celebrity, and he's just always running around the campus, and everybody's just smiling at him kasi patawa siya, di ba? Ang saya-saya niya. But he's now a globally awarded social entrepreneur named Ilak Diaz. So what does knowledge, skills, and the right people do to MSMEs? Yung tanong kanina, how far can they go? You can review the 3 people that I mentioned, where they are today. Now, similarly, with the mentees that we had, that we've been engaging, yung mindset na laging nasa una, entrep mindset. One mentee said, okay na ako dito magbenta sa barangay kasi ayokong mapunta doon sa mga grocery kasi meron silang pangit na dinideduct sa akin. Pag sinabi ko na tool of trade yun when they get percentage out of your sales. So we would like to see who are the necessity entrepreneurs versus opportunity entrepreneurs. The opportunity entrepreneurs will be the one who will grab all what we share with them, and yung MSMEs kasi like social strata, there's ABC as well. And you may be a micro entrepreneur, but you have that mindset that you will grow this business. And later on, looking back from 20 years, you never realized that you were just actually sampling from your classmates, right? Pero kung ang gusto lang niya talaga hanggang kapitbahay, kahit siguro tayong apat, hindi natin mababago yung gusto niya, right? So yun po, that's my take. Thank you.
Yes, Donald.
Yeah, I'll just add lang what Alan said. I always say na in entrepreneurship, di ba sinabi ko pulso, the heart, right? The heart of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But today, like what you said, Miss Alma, the heart has to be followed by the head. In yesterday's world, all the hearts fought, and those who won with the heart. Today, in the age of information, has to be followed by the head. If you reverse it, the head goes first, it will not win because everything is academic. Kaya important yung pulso right? So yung puso. Pero kailangan sabayan ng knowledge. Otherwise, if all of you who remain have the heart, now it will be the head who will differentiate you and who you will forge ahead. And that's why information and learning is so important.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, we are getting a lot of questions now. Sabi ni Professor Maria Teresa is, in the digital disruption of education, what are your insights towards tomorrow? Do you see this happening 2 to 3 years from now? And kami ni Donald with the Management Association will tell you tomorrow was yesterday. Yeah. So tomorrow was in 2019 when we started the pandemic. So it's happening today. So let me just get the panelists to weigh in on this. Donald, what do you think?
I think for education as a teacher, sobrang important sa akin. I don't create my syllabus. Kahit na lahat ng professor nagsabi sa akin submit your syllabus. Sabi ko, my first day in class is to set up the syllabus with them. What do you like to learn? Gusto mo maraming academic? Gusto mo maraming learning? Gusto mo every week may speaker tayo? Okay, may speaker. So depende talaga. What do you really want to learn? So in fact today, I have a strama class, I have a strama class. Ano yung mga negosyo ninyo? Magtulungan natin, mag-group tayo. Ito yung negosyo niya. So may isa, Nueva Ecija siya. May manukan siya, parang mang inasal doon na maliit lang, 5 branches. Sabi ko, yan ang i-paper natin. Gusto mo ba? Game siya. So we were all helping and crafting, and it's something that's relevant to them in an academic setting. Right? So saan ang libro? Wala kaming binabasa. We are all, of course, I start with just 5 slides. These are the theories. How do we apply Ansof's matrix here? How do we apply the certain rules? Diba? Kahit na sabihin mo, simple SWOT analysis, simple Porter's 5 forces. Diba? So, pero hindi to academic na kailangan may ganyan-ganyan, kompleto. Hindi siya ganun Right? You look at it, you have all of this in front of you, you throw what you don't need in your business, and you apply only what you can. Diba? So that's why important yung lens ng real owner. So I think for me as a professor, it is for me the most important is to create a mindset change that they learn something, really something, not academic, but really something that they can move the needle, in their enterprise. That is something that's very relevant to them.
Yeah, and I think also in the academy, it's very important to recognize that sometimes even your students, they're more knowledgeable than you because ikaw, for example, you come strictly from an academic background, pero sila, they've run businesses. So syempre, baka I might even allow them to speak in my class rather than me talking about entrepreneurship because while I am from the books, they are from real life. But we're very, very, very interesting ngayon talagang educational setup. And one of the question here is said, came from Cesar de la Cruz, who said, digitalization is good, but how do you compete in terms of the cost of production? Which in reality is the major challenge of most businesses. That's true. That's true. So I think as trainers and facilitators and the other members of the panel can weigh in on this. But there are other requirements now for businesses that we as trainers and facilitators should take note of. Like the challenge of supply chain, the challenge of production. So we need to be able to engage our trainees so that we offer real life solutions, sabi nga not the coming from the books, but rather that's where the data analytics will come in, and that's where it's going to be most useful for most of our participants. Is somebody going to speak? Because I see the screen of Dr. Felina Yang from PWU open. Are you Do you have a question, Dr. Yang?
Actually, I agree with all of you that when you become an entrepreneur, definitely it is really the intuition of the individual that is very important, because it's a lifetime process. To become an entrepreneur is something that's lifetime. And so along the way, when we give them certain feedbacks on marketing feedbacks, for example, then it just lends substance to what they've been doing, and they would reference that to our entrepreneurs. So I guess it's not a structured thing. It is something that the entrepreneur will have to learn, and most especially when they encounter certain challenges, and especially certain failures, where there is something that reminds them that they should be better or they should avoid, such that they become better entrepreneurs. So I agree with our dear panelists here in terms of theory and practice.
Thank you, Dr. Yang. I think the PTTC should remind us if we are extending our time, because I think we're getting a very good discussion here. But there's one question that I'd like to throw to the three of you. I'm talking about outcomes, not merely certification. I think it's one of the requirements later on. Hindi nga later on. Right now, that is already being required. No, that it should be the direction of training, especially for enterprises. It's not about learning how to bookkeep, for instance, but rather appreciating the value of keeping track of your operations. Being able to do analysis of the results of operation should be the outcome, right? So how do we encourage that kind of track, and how should our trainers transition to that kind of modality? Not just teaching them debit and credit, but rather the importance and the value of analyzing your operation. Kasi that's coming from micro to macro mindset. Sorry ha, Donald. Sige, start ka ulit. Ikaw, educator.
No, I think the outcome basis is very important, because in the end you have to be very clear what change do you want to happen.
Yeah.
But what change do you want to affect? Diba? What is point A and point B? And that has to be very clear, because people will be spending 3 months with you if it's an academic exercise, or 4 hours with you if it's a workshop, or 1 hour of their time with you. And in many cases, sa totoo lang, those who can really mentor, those who can really give their thoughts and insights, hindi siya marami who can give relevant, meaningful insights, right? How many of us, or even how many of those who are asking for advice, when they actually, ako sabi ko nga there was a time I was doing, we were doing not consultancy. I have workshops for 4 hours. For 4 hours, no? Usually it's 3.5 hours. I give a talk about digital marketing, and then the last 30 minutes for Q&A. Diba? And then I realized after giving a talk, no one really cares. In the end, ang haba ng pila ko, because they have very specific questions. So I flipped it. 30 minutes na yung utok ko. Then everyone just asked me their questions, and we as a class discussed it also. Because the outcome has to be something that they can bring home, that they can use tomorrow, right? Rather than just learning it, and again, it's a back of your head, but you cannot apply it.
Okay. Yes, Eric.
Opo, doon sa what we do with SDL, or self-directed learning, entrepreneurs are actually asked ano yung kailangan mo sa negosyo. So kung sinabi niya may retail establishment ako pero hindi ako makabili ng mahal na POS worth 100 to 200,000. Tapos meron ditong course on advanced Excel, for example. What we would want him to do is create the IDP, Individual Development Plan. And after learning the course, we would like to see 20 to 30 days after that there's actually an applied skill that was rendered in the business. And you would see an outcome that, hindi ako nakabili ng natuto ako mag-Excel, meron akong laptop or desktop, create ako ng maayos na format to monitor my sales in my inventory, right? And a coach would later come and ask powerful questions on how the course have impacted the learner. And the measure of success is, how that course has enabled the learner to move the needle in the operations of that micro or small business.
Yeah. Are you going to add anything or really?
Yeah, I can add a little bit. I think Sir Donald and Sir Eric have already shared so much wisdom. I think the only thing I would add is that, yeah, I think sometimes when we have, say, individual learners coming in saying, I want to learn, data-driven decision making, or I want to learn dashboarding. Our answer to that is that's an abstract skill. Tell me as a business owner, what do you want to do? If they say, well, or we ask them, what's your biggest business challenge? Is it finding customers? Okay, you have a Facebook page. If you have a Facebook page, then you have data. Okay, we can optimize, your Facebook ads or whatnot. Now we have a project that we can work on. If you don't have anything, then we can't do a project. And maybe learning an abstract skill for which you don't have a concrete use doesn't make a lot of sense. And our responsibility here as a trainer is to be able to tell you, okay, here's how you can use the skill that we are an expert in to for your specific business. And in that sense, I think where learning and is moving away from just the traditional learning and is moving towards almost like a mix of consulting, where we need to work with the learner to figure out, okay, well, how is this going to be applicable for your business, and how can we use your real business situation as the actual learning experience?
Okay, so I was just given a note from PTTC that we have to have the last question now, but my last question will be about moving forward. Because one of the things that we sacrifice when we do digital and virtual learning is actually what we call I saw it in your website already, authentic connections, setting up authentic connections where the learners foster belonging. I think that's the one that it's not really just the instructions, but rather the importance of learning is being able to congregate with your fellow travelers, look at their experiences, and then sometimes mas mabigat pa yung effect nung you support one another. Tapos yung ginawa nung classmate mo, ganun pa yung solution, and more than what the trainers or the facilitators will say. So I'm interested to know, because that's one of the things na parang it's being sacrificed under a hybrid or a virtual learning environment. So how do we keep people interested in education if they are limited in developing barkada among their co-learners, because this barkada mutually reinforce? So how do you see this kind of environment and the digital transformation play out in this kind of need also for social connection? So let's sige Eric.
Yeah, I'll go first. So I totally agree with the authentic connection concept, and that's the objective of the ARL tools, or action reflection learning tools, that we're able to not only connect but have that relationship with the participants and the peer learning process, or PLP, amongst all the participants. That's why we create learning partners, so that their journey towards not only the session but the entire course is not only interactive, but they grow together, right? So that connectivity coming from the speaker, facilitator or speaker, right, and that will be emanating from him, cascading towards classmates, so much so that within breaks, even I just finished a 9-month course last year, and within the break of 1 month, it seemed like we did not go on a break, because the virtual sessions keeps happening informally without our coaches. It was initiated by the fellow peers, so we were doing PLPs, right? And when we came back, it's like we didn't took a 1-month break. And after we finished, now it's 2 months after December, we are still online with each other, and that has been carried after the course has finished.
Okay, Aurelian, yes.
Yeah. I think this is definitely one of the things that I think makes learning memorable for people. I think for us, one of the goals, I think the same with any great university is, the first day the students come into the class, and it's not look at the professor, this is who's going to teach you. It's look around the class. These are actually the ones that you're going to keep in contact with. They're the ones who are going to keep on, growing with you in your journey. Maybe even, I see many of our alumni years after they have attended the cohort, they're still talking to each other because now they still go to each other when they have questions about data, they learn a new tool, they have entered a community of lifelong learners. And I think, how do we facilitate that as instructors, especially as we move towards more hybrid virtual experiences? I think the answer is that you also almost have to overcorrect for it, because you know that the virtual experience is by its nature very isolating, and it's very easy for it to end up kind of like a MOOC where you never talk to anyone. And so we have to be really forceful about actually forcing games in, breakout rooms, all of the things that force people to get to know each other. And sometimes it's almost approaching things like a UX designer, where you think about, okay, when I look at my lesson plan, how am I addressing like introverts in the audience? How am I making sure that even the introverts are making connections? How do I make, say, an exercise which in a way forces the students to create their own, say, for us, we use Discord, their own Discord channel that is outside of the school, because we know that when they do that, they're much more likely to keep on, chatting to each other. So all of these things are, I guess, like, thinking through the learning experience and deliberately doing almost a little bit of social engineering to build, experiences that will force people to connect socially as well as intellectually.
Thank you, Donald.
I always say that teachers only as good as what the students learn and how their life has been impacted. Sometimes we attend classes we don't like and they pass and that's it, di ba? Wala lang. Right? And it's a waste of everyone's time. So we also have to be cognizant of that fact also. That's why for me, every time, most of my classes, 14 weeks, 17 weeks, every week I ask for feedback talaga. I don't ask as a class, di ba? But I either talk to the class president or someone na who has attended my class before, ako yung ulit naging professor, na kahit paano close na, anong tingin mo? I really ask that. Sabi ko, tirahin mo. You tell me, have you really learned something? Right? And how do you, and sometimes, minsan yung iba, ayaw talaga nila, kahit na ako nag-lecture, I try to make it fun and everything. Sabi sir, okay, magaling ka naman magsalita, pero gusto namin, iba naman. Ay, okay lang, no offense. So I bring in other speakers, I bring in si Eric, I bring in others, kasi gusto nila iba eh. So okay lang yun. Much more important in the end, I'm judged by the engagement they have. Diba? Yeah. Ang hirap, diba, pag naka-off lahat pag naka-zoom, pag nag-camera off sila, kahit na-require mo, pero lahat nag-camera off, I don't require them. I don't require them to on cam. But na-on cam sila kasi they're engaged eh. They off cam pag you lose them, di ba? So it's also how you look at yourself, and you should be your worst critic, I would say. Diba? Because a teacher is a certain power, and at the same time it's a gift that you can give.
Yeah. So thank you to our panelists. So I will just ask from each one from each one of you your message or your advice to our trainers and facilitators to just wind up and to wrap up the session. We'll start with Eric.
Yep. Moving forward, now that we're opening, it reminded me of one situation where Doc Donald and I were together, going back to face-to-face first week of December, and we were in front of a big ballroom with so many executives, and on the first 3 minutes, we were actually grasping for either our hair or, iba yung online, iba yung activities online, iba yung activities in person. But now, as trainers and facilitators, we should be able to master that hybrid of providing the learning. And alam niyo po, hindi siya madali, nakakapagod. You find yourselves, sharing and teaching for the whole day. So, like ko pong bitbit yung aking motto in Tagalog, di bali ng pagod, wag lang masama ang loob. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Yes, Aurelian.
Yes, I think for me, the main thing is I think Sir Donald shared this, I think, in terms of the Great Reset. I think the pandemic has forced all of us to really think about the way that the world currently is, and also to confront that a lot of things that we thought could not be done can be done, and a lot of things that we thought had to be done a certain way actually can be done in other ways. And so I think to try and take this opportunity to rethink systems, and there's probably few systems that are as probably ripe for change than I think the education system, because it's now so important, and in many ways not that well adapted to where the world currently is. And that's, I think, something that we want everyone to be a part of, and not just us as trainers, but also us as learners and all the learners we come into contact with.
All right. And finally, Dr. Donald.
Being an entrepreneur and a business person, I would always say they're almost the same, right? Teaching like business. How many successful business do you see that if you have a product, you say, this is the product, buy this? Very few business succeed, because the first thing in business is knowing your customer and understanding what they want and creating that product for them. Same also in teaching. When you go to a classroom, you don't go in and tell them, I will teach you this. What is more important is go into the classroom and ask them, what do you want to learn? And I will create an environment and a content that is something that is suited for you and hope you can use it in your day-to-day life.
Okay. So thank you very much. I will now share the screen and wrap up the session for everyone. So I hope it can be seen now. I will just Donald, ano ka nga, thumbs up ka nga, if you can already see my screen.
Yeah.
Sorry,
okay. We can see it.
Can you see the screen now?
We can use it.
Can be seen now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So that was a very interesting and energetic discussion, and time really flew. I'm sure we are wishing we have more opportunity to pick their brains, but well, who knows? Maybe PTTC can expand this into a longer session for you in the future. But let me just summarize our speakers' insights. And the highlights of the discussion, they talked about creating conducive learning environment, whether physical or virtual. It doesn't really matter kung nasaan ka, but the important thing is to create a conducive learning environment and have a relevant program design and customized approach. Then Square Labs, through Aurelian Chu, weighed in and said data creates information and insights that can be moved. So it's important to be data-based when doing customization for your platforms and your delivery. And the application of design thinking in learning processes will really help. Then digital is a great equalizer, allowing MSMEs to compete with big companies. That's what Dr. Donald said. And there's an ongoing skill shift, adapting to the transformation by challenging the norms and also disrupting the systems. So in the end, digital, collaborative, and completely individual learning, that's the wave of the future. And I will weigh in with some of my own key takeaways. First, that we link the learning to experience as closely as possible to the realities on the ground and the experience of the trainees. Doing this increases the probability that what was taught will be applied in operation. For this, we should take the time to study the industry they are in, the nuances of their operation, to understand their issues and offer ideas and advice they will find relevant in their settings. We maximize the use of digital technology so that we can deliver content in multiple platforms. Creative content can provide a learning experience that can make the trainees excited and eager for more. Combining learning and actual observation of processes can augment the delivery in a more interesting way. And finally, speak the language of their business. Communicate better. And remember that while some of us might teach from a theoretical perspective, these trainees are battle-tested. Been there, done that. Listening to them is as important as imparting the learning. And who knows, maybe in reality, they are the ones teaching us. So we hope that this mini session helped us all see how much responsibility rests on our shoulders when we teach and train. In the end, the proof of the pudding is in the changing. So, sabi nga, I really like this quotes. If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. Next, the students of the future will demand the learning support that is appropriate for their situation or context. Nothing more, nothing less. And what we would like to see, what we want to see is an explosion of different approaches to learning. And change is the end game for all true learning. So with that, we wish you all a great learning discovery ahead from the four of us. Thank you very much. Over to you now, PTTC. Thank you, guys. Thank you to the panel. I enjoyed working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you po.
Thank you so much. That was indeed a fruitful and exciting discussion between our panelists. We'd like to thank Yusek Alma for helping us bring together these three powerhouse panel, no? Mr. Donald Lee, Mr. Eric Kaeg, and Aureline Chiu. So grabe no, grabe yung discussion, talaga namang powerhouse ang ating panelists. We have to be expert with your, sabi nga ni Mr. Donald Lim, be expert with your craft. So you will know what you are saying. And how we do that? We always keep on learning. We have to learn how to learn. Learning how to learn kasi the person who keeps on learning are really the ones who succeed in life. And na kanilang mga, kumbaga, kanilang final words. Sabi ni Mr. Guy, ito yung aking favorite, no? Di bali ng pagod, wag lang masama ang loob.
Totoo yan, partner. Grabe, no? Sabi kanina ni Miss Alma, no? This is just a small session, pero hindi, no? Sobra talaga, siksik, liglig, umaapaw yung kaalaman na ibinahagi ng ating mga panelists, no? I like what Sir Donald said earlier, no? Na parang the trainer would also have to learn from the students. Ibig sabihin, it must always be a two-way process. Kumbaga, give and take eh. Hindi pwedeng si student lang ang natututo kay teacher, no? Or dun sa ating discussion. Pero dapat, si teacher, natututo din siya kay student. Saka alam mo, partner, no? Talagang yung exposure, yung kanina yung sinabi ni Miss Alma yata yon, no? Na may mga natututo talaga sa field. Yung iba kasi they weren't able to go to school or to study talaga, no? Pero iba rin talaga yung yung learning na makukuha mo when you get to experience the job or talagang there's a total exposure in the community. And siguro last na din, no, sabi din kanina na dapat hindi lang isip, hindi lang din puso, dapat daw sabay. Hindi pwede. So siguro partner pro tip 'yon, hindi lang sa business or sa anuman, pero in the totality or the entire life mo, no, how we are going to live our lives to the fullest. Talagang it's something that we could use, no? Again, sabay daw dapat po yan, no? Isip at puso, hindi pwedeng mauna yung isip, hindi pwedeng mauna yung puso, kailangan sabayan, no? So yun, partner.
At sabi din ni Dr. Donald Lim, you are an entrepreneur and a business person. At ang unang kailangan gawin, knowing your customers and understanding what they need or what they want.
Totoo yan, no? Kasi doon mo talaga malalaman, partner, no? Kumbaga, it would definitely be easy for you to navigate.
Yes.
Kasi pag alam mo yung gusto mo, alam mo yung kailangan mo, then definitely alam mo yung mga planong tatahakin, no?
Yes. Pag inaral natin ano yung gusto ng customers natin, malalaman natin ano yung kailangan nating gawin.
Yes.
Okay.
And definitely, partner Gia, no, we were served with the freshest, hottest, no? The new normal current practices and trends that will surely serve as anchors of future requirements and directions on micro, small, medium enterprises or MSME training pathways.
Yan. After our panel discussions for our resource persons and our different partners, now it's time to recognize our partners, all their contribution in delivering services and reaching out to more MSMEs.
Kaya naman, partner, sa puntong ito, no, atin nang bibigyang pagkilala ang malawak at natatanging contribution po ng ating mga katuwang sa ating misyon at mandato. Of course, partner, sila ang ating resource persons at institutional partners.
Oh, actually last year, no, ang dami talaga nating partnership. Talagang ang dami nating mga naging institutional partners na nakatulong natin sa pag-deliver ng iba't ibang training program sa ating mga MSMEs. So now, it's time to let us hear from some of our partners on their messages for the 35th founding anniversary of the Philippine Trade Training Center.
We are currently working with PTTC to empower micro SMEs by providing cybersecurity awareness training programs and workshops. This is in line with our corporate mission of providing total security and best-in-class cybersecurity solutions to SMEs and micro SMEs. Our training programs are designed to create cybersecurity awareness and provide knowledge on the importance of cyber hygiene, especially in the current business landscape where digitization has become an essential part of doing business. Our training programs and workshops provide a good insight on the cyber threat landscape and some of the best practices that micro SMEs can adopt in order to protect their critical data, stay safe online, and secure their business transactions. We are honored to collaborate with PTTC not only on cybersecurity awareness training programs, but we also hope to create a pathway for candidates who would like to pursue a career in cybersecurity. With our future cybersecurity certification courses, we hope to upskill and create a pool of technically accredited resources to address the shortage
introduced to PTTC in 2019, I was impressed with the dedicated training facility for MSMEs that the Philippine government has established. When some Singapore trainers participated in the MSME Week in 2019 at PTTC, it was very clear to us how much impact and value PTTC was bringing to the MSMEs. What was also very evident was that the PTTC team was so passionate about what they were doing. It was obvious to me too that with PTTC there was so much untapped potential. When ED Nelly approached me to suggest some training for the PTTC team, I suggested equipping them with the skills and knowledge to use the skills framework to design training program. Accelerator saw the potential of sharing the skills framework with Philippines, and ED Nelly was recommended as the project director. ED Nelly must have sensed how having the Philippine skills framework will benefit both the resource persons as well as Filipino MSMEs.
The Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines, RIPOPHIL, fully supports PTTC in its goal in uplifting our micro, small, and medium enterprises through the creation of a learning ecosystem for Filipino entrepreneurs. As part of our agency's mandate to protect the nation's intellectual property, or IP, IPOPHIL has been implementing education and learning programs that promote IP and raise IP awareness among our people. With this in mind, we have been collaborating with PTTC in ensuring that our MSMEs are informed about their IP rights. For example, our IP Forward IP Masterclass series has topics that focus on MSMEs, game development, design, and food industry. These are sectoral and industry-specific IP intermediate training programs that are aimed to educate PTTC's stakeholders.
Resource persons will gain a deeper understanding of the cyber threat landscape and some of the techniques used by attackers to intrude and access confidential data. They also will be updated on industry best practices for cybersecurity and international standards for cybersecurity compliance. Through our workshops and tabletop exercises, the resource person will familiarize themselves with some of the tools that can be used to defend against cyber threats. Lastly, they will gain more knowledge on cybersecurity preparedness and how they can better equip micro SMEs, not only to better protect themselves against cyber threats, but also to prepare for such events.
resource persons like yourself will have very comprehensive and industry relevant guidelines to create your training programs.
We also have Build IP, which is Hypophil's Train the Trainers program for PTTC's resource persons and learning coordinators. What's more, Hypophil is assisting PTTC in integrating IP topics in the latter's different professional learning pathways. Hypophil's training programs not only enable PTTC resource persons to include topics in their training designs, these help participants in the programs, particularly MSMEs, to develop and protect their creations. Meanwhile, Hypophil is working with PTTC on the crafting of their IP policy to serve as a guide in making sure the creations of PTTC personnel are protected. It will also ensure that they will not infringe on the rights of other individuals.
Programs will help Filipino micro SMEs better understand the cyber threat landscape and the importance of having effective cybersecurity measures in place to protect against these current and emerging threats. The courses will also enable micro SMEs to easily identify potential threats while doing business online and how they can navigate the threat landscape by implementing some of the best practices for cybersecurity. By attending this program, they can better prepare for cyber attacks and intrusions by gaining knowledge on the appropriate measures they need to have in place to protect their critical data. You can also make informed decisions when they decide to acquire cybersecurity solutions.
The PSFs are also useful for development of micro or short-term courses that can be accredited and supported by TESDA. With the PSFs, TESDA has also implemented the Micro-Credentialing Award system to enable flexible learning to be funded for implementation. MSMEs have commented that the long qualification trainings are not industry-friendly nor flexible. With the PSFs, MSMEs can look forward to more micro courses that are more aligned to your needs. Furthermore, the MSMEs can also make use of the PSFs to enhance your in-house enterprise human capital systems, such as better defined enterprise competency structures. Esalabator is indeed honored to be a partner for progress with PTTC.
With these programs, our MSMEs can learn about their IP rights and how to protect them. This in turn can provide them opportunities to grow their business and expand their reach to markets online and abroad. To highlight this point, business experts reported during our IP Grant Forum last year that even as e-commerce boomed, the MSMEs that survived the first year of the pandemic were those whose IPs were protected and had positive branding strategies. Of course, these learning programs aren't just the initiatives of Hypophil to support our MSMEs. For one, our One for the World program, which was launched last year, aims to help our MSMEs advance globally by protecting their trademarks under the Madrid Protocol, the international filing system for trademarks. Additionally, our Wanna Make a Mark is trademark registration incentive program that focuses on and enables women-led MSMEs to register their trademarks at a reduced cost.
By attending this program, they can better prepare for cyber attacks and intrusions by gaining knowledge on the appropriate measures they need to have in place to protect their critical data. You can also make informed decisions when they decide to acquire cybersecurity solutions. We understand that micro SMEs are at a great disadvantage when it comes to cybersecurity protection, awareness, and preparedness. There is a stark contrast to larger organizations that possess the resources to invest heavily in security measures as well as provide internal cybersecurity training for their employees as part of their security strategy. We have identified this gap, and we believe that all organizations, regardless of size, should be fully aware and adequately protected against current and emerging cyber threats. We are committed not only to provide Filipino micro SMEs with cybersecurity training programs to enhance their security posture, but also to provide them with best-in-class and enterprise-grade security solutions and services at a cost suited to micro enterprises. This will ensure they are fully protected against cyber threats and have peace of mind to focus on growing their business. We hope to equip them with the appropriate knowledge through our training programs and tools that will strengthen their ability to secure their business. Thank you everyone, and thank you PTTC for having us as an institutional partner. Happy anniversary, PTTC.
As an instrumental partner in the development of the PSF, I would certainly encourage all the resource persons and MSMEs to leverage on the PSFs to enhance your training and business. As the PSFs are referenced from international best practices but contextualized to the Philippines settings, adoption and adaptation by the MSMEs will better position you for the global markets as well. Being able to use the PSFs to articulate your skills and competencies will help stakeholders and your clients outside the industry to better connect with you. PSF is the skills language by the industry for the industry. Thank you.
Congratulations again to PTTC as you celebrate your anniversary. Thank you for partnering with IPOPHIL in supporting our MSMEs to fully develop themselves and become successful. On our part, IPOPHIL remains committed in being a steady partner of PTTC to transform our Filipino enterprises as engines of growth of the country, to give our people a better quality of life. By working together, we can build a more inclusive and empowered nation. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay ang ating mga MSMEs.
The COVID-19 crisis has exposed vulnerabilities of the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Jobs were lost and incomes were reduced due to lockdowns. Through the ILO project, bringing back jobs safely under the COVID-19 crisis in the Philippines, rebooting small and informal businesses safely and digitally, workers and entrepreneurs will have enhanced capacity in occupational safety and health and productivity measures, digital entrepreneurship, financial education to help in recovery. In partnership with the Department of Trade and Industry, Philippines Trade and Training Center, or PTTC, as the training delivery partner, the ILO supports quality training of MSMEs, particularly on sustaining competitive and resilient enterprises, or SCORE. SCORE is a global training program that improves productivity and working conditions in small and medium enterprises. It will support a human-centered recovery for MSMEs and informal workers that is inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. Through the SCORE, the project will develop trainers in the country on OSH and productivity measures. The trainers will improve their skills in training module development, facilitating online sessions, monitoring and training of impact, as well as the technical skills on the substantive aspects of SCORE, which highlights workplace cooperation and COVID-19 safety and health at the work, among others. Enhanced capacity of the MSMEs and the informal businesses will help address their vulnerabilities, especially in the time of pandemic. This partnership with DTI PTTC will contribute to improve safety and health of workers in MSMEs and mitigate the negative socioeconomic impact of COVID-19. The project also intends to supplement ongoing efforts of the Government of the Philippines and the social partners in addressing COVID-19 challenges. Part of the agenda of the National Employment Recovery Strategy is to develop business confidence, and prerequisite of which is ensuring safety in the workplaces. Also, skilling both entrepreneurs and workers on digital applications in their operations will further accelerate digital transformation of the SMEs and the informal businesses now considered as the basic necessity in the new normal. In recognition of the MSMEs as a key human-centered recovery for the pandemic, the ILO firmly believes that safe and healthy working conditions are fundamental for decent work. Furthermore, the ILO fully recognizes that digitalization of the MSMEs is the key response to reduce infection risks in businesses. Thus, ILO will continue to strengthen workers' rights and support sustainable enterprises. The ILO will strongly promote social dialogue for the meaningful participation of the government, workers, and employers' organization in building a preventative safety and health culture at work. Thank you. Salamat po.
Today marks an important milestone for one of BPI Foundation's longtime partners. To the Philippine Trade Training Center, or PTTC, a big congratulations on your 35th anniversary. As your partner since 2010, we have provided capacity building, knowledge transfer, and application opportunities to thousands of MSCs through various learning sessions. Our pioneer program, the BPI Show Me Teach Me program, or SMTM, have already benefited over 13,000 MSEs from all over the country. We are honored to be one of your partners for progress, especially for our shared advocacy to promote the growth of local entrepreneurship in the micro small enterprises sector, considered to be the major driver of our economic growth. Once again, on behalf of BPI Foundation, I am Owen Camayo, and we look forward to more years of meaningful partnership towards our common aspiration of a sustainable and better Philippines.
The National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, represented by the Office of the Commissioner for Central Mindanao, together with the Office on Education, Culture and Health, or OECH, Legal Affairs Office, LAO, and Office on Socioeconomic and Special Concerns, had a meeting with the Philippine Trade Training Center to discuss the proposed Memorandum of Understanding last August 1, 2021. Working on this partnership, our agencies have agreed to further our collaboration for the indigenous cultural communities, indigenous peoples, and NCIP capacitation, and the advancement and development of more resilient ancestral domains through culture-sensitive and ICC's IP's needs-driven responsive programs and projects. Question number 2. The partnership we are working on aims to strengthen the capacity and competence of our technical personnel through trainings conducted by the PTTC on the following areas: organizational development and management, financial and fiscal management, marketing development and management, and other relevant and applicable training.
Hello, everyone. I am Mais Alconcel. I am with the International Trade Center as a National Project Coordinator for the Arise Plus Philippines project. And today I'm here to share with you the collaboration that we have with the Philippine Trade Training Center under the Arise Plus Philippines project. With policymakers, with business support organizations, and the private sector. And our focus areas are on providing trade and market intelligence, building a business-friendly environment, strengthening trade and investment support institutions, connecting to international value chains, mainstreaming inclusive and green trade, and supporting regional integration. About the Arise Plus Philippines project, it is a 4-year project which started from March 2021 and will run up to February 2025, which aims to foster inclusive economic growth and poverty reduction in the Philippines by strengthening trade performance and competitiveness. And when we say strengthening trade performance and competitiveness, our focus is on MSMEs because they represent over 99% of Philippine businesses and they contribute to 60% of jobs.
Maraming salamat po sa ating mga partners na nagbigay ng kanilang mensahe at kung ano ba yung ating mga projects with them. Alam mo, LA, ilan lang yan sa ating mga institutional partners na naging katuwang natin last year in giving training programs for MSMEs. Nariyan din ang US-ASEAN Business Council for the ASEAN SME Academy.
Of course, partner, nandyan din yung United States Agency for International Development, Science, Technology, Research, Innovation Development Project or the USAID Stride for DigiFab.
Nandyan din ang GIZ for the Payong app.
The Food and Drug Administration for Food Connect.
Ang BPI Foundation na partner na natin for 12 years now.
And partner yung napanood natin kanina, of course, the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines or the IPOPHIL.
And ang TAFA or Technology Access for All.
Fresh.
Ang ating MOU sa kanila for the cybersecurity.
Partner, we also have the International Trade Center for the Arise Plus.
And International Labor Organization for the SCORE program.
We have the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples for our Complete Women program.
And syempre, narinig natin si Anderson, no? Skills Framework Singapore for the Philippine Skills Framework. Ayan, actually, LA, bukod sa ating institutional partners, this part is for our resource person. At isa sa mga katuwang talaga natin sa pagbibigay ng everyday training program sa ating mga MSMEs. Alam mo, yung mga RPs natin, as we call them, talagang sometimes they are more than just our RPs. Nagiging kaibigan natin sila, kapamilya na din. Kasi kapag minsan may aberya sa training, no, tayo din yung nagsasaluhan, no? Lalo na pag bumalik na tayo sa face-to-face LA, minsan makakasama po silang mag-travel kung saan-saan to conduct training programs for MSMEs.
Alam mo, partner, totoo yan, no? Yung mga RPs natin, hindi na natin sila masyadong tinuturing as RPs, no? Talagang a partner, no? O katuwang natin in hashtag Training for Nation Building, no? Alam mo, partner, I couldn't be more excited na doon sa tawag dito sa face-to-face natin, no, na conduct of training. At least I can get to travel with them, eat with them, no, during break sessions, no. And I'm certain that it's something that something exciting and really to look forward to,
Yes,
no?
LA, and yung mga ano nyo, yung mga exchanges of thoughts nyo during those break sessions sa mga training, mas marami ka pang matututunan sa kanila about life in general, hindi lang sa training programs na kinoconduct nyo.
Truly exciting, partner. Kaya naman, we are awarding this certificate to our resource speakers and of course, partner, our institutional partners, in our grateful appreciation and recognition din naman of their valued contributions sa Philippine Trade Training Center Global MSME Academies Program sa pagtulong ng ating ahensya upang maabot natin ang ating mga mithiin ng Training for Nation building, So talaga naman, our resource persons, ang ating institutional partners, we really appreciate for all the efforts, contributions that you have given, generously given and extended to us, not only to us, but more so to our MSMEs and fellow Filipino citizens.
Yes. So, it's time to recognize?
Yes. So now we'd like to recognize our esteemed, passionate, ever-supportive intellects at the Philippine Trade Training Center. We have Omar Abisamis, Norly Aidasani, Norman Adriano, Camille Rose Albarracin, Marlene Alberto, Ann Alcantara, Maria Divina Alcazabas, Cristina Almonte, Joel Amante, and Genoveva Ancheta.
Nandyan din si Ermelinda Andres, Aldrin Antivola, Maria Cristina Aquino, Charlotte Romero, or Armero rather, Ryson Arobinto, Juan Gregorio Arroyo, Henry James Avesilia, Jeremiah Balan, Rendel Barcimo, Angel Basbasan Jr.
Partner, dito rin sila Marvy Basig, Antonio Bautista, Noreen Marian Bautista, Samuel Bautista, Armand Benko, Delphine Bibat, Cynthia Bihis, Rona Joy Bolaong, Divina Gracia Cabadu, and Remedios Cadawan.
And we'd like to recognize and thank Wilfredo Caincoy, Carlo Edmund Calimon, Marichu Camposano, Rhea Cantos, William Carrasco Jr., Enrique Castillo, Jonadeth Coha, Mark Julian Constantino, Jana Cornajo, and Roma Ann Andar.
Hindi rin magpapahuli, we have to recognize these resource persons: Jeff Datingaling, Victorino Datuin, Ahmed Jeffrey Datukan, Jonilo Del Rosario, Joshua Jericho Del Rosario, Cesar De La Cruz, Doresita De Lima, Andrew De Los Angeles, Jocelyn Diaz, and Maria Teresita Socorro Di Maculangan.
Yes, you can see on your screen, Dorlene Di Maunahan, Kevin Joseph Dizon, Bennett Di Chanco, Norbert Enriquez, Philip Ermita, Emil Adrian Fernandez, Annalisa Flores Malayang, Angelica Frahinal, Maria Leonora Francisco, and Rene Gacuma.
We also have here Ray and Grace Garalde, Abigail May Garcia, Chris John Garcia, Brian Gobaco, Ryan August Gonzalez, Alan Gozon, Carlito Impas, Maria Lourdes Hapson, Robert Harquillo, and kanina lang, Alma Rita Jimenez.
Diba? Ang gaganda, ang gwapo ng ating mga resource person. Rosemary Kwan, John Paul Lanot, Francisco Dean Pax Lapid, Marichula Roga, Joaleo Shahid Linsag, Maria Luz Lizada, Florida Loberiano, John Michael Angelo Lopo, Joven Makapinlak, and Victor Madlang Bayan.
We also would like to recognize Carlos Maglutak, Victoria Mandat, Cesar Mansibang, Marfil Mantika, Army Jeshlyn Martin, Nicanor Matias, Lourdes Montevirgen, Melchor Morandarte, Jose Edgar Mutuk, and Grace Noceja.
And you also have Erickson Nolasco, Johnson Ong, Dennis Orlina, Teresa Pasis, Robert Pagia, Henry Palaca, Celeste Peralta, Apple Alison Perez, Regine Gail Pinacate, and Cynthia Ramirez.
We also have here Romeo Ramirez, Chris Joniel Franz Rana, Bernardo Regalado, Edgardo Rionico, Genesis Jr., Maria Teresa Riquelman, Jenny Romarate, Philip Jason Roque, Karina Saldana, Maylani May Santos, and Rodolfo Saringan Jr.
And we have Miss Ana Maria Veronica Solano, Renato Solis, Luciano Rey Soliven, Helen Subradil, Rene Yatan, Daisy Tanya Franca, Sarina May Tandas, Emmanuel Tandok, Jana Toral, and Margarita Antorio.
We also like to recognize Doris Torres, Dindo Ul, Mark Dennis Uyaco, Janelle Valdecanas, Maria Rebecca Valera, Carolina Velasco, Jesus Villamor IV, Carmelita Walton Masigan, Jennifer Winnicki, and George Noel Winnicki.
And to complete the lineup, we have Ronita Yatona, Alfredo Yatco III, Antonio Errol Ibanez, and Dr. Felina Yang.
Wow, grabe
Okay.
partners. We have over 100 resource persons at itong mga to, no, katuwang natin in doing hashtag Training for Nation Building.
At siyempre, bakit tayo nakakat ngayon, Eric?
Ayan na nga, partner, no? Bakit nga ba tayo nakahat? Kwento mo naman sa amin.
Kasi syempre, usually we do a toast, no?
Yes.
Dahil virtual tayo ngayon, we want to do the hats off sa ating mga resource persons and institutional partners. And of course, to lead us in giving hats off to our partners, may we call in again our Executive Director, none other than Hidi Nelly Diliera.
Philippine Trade Training Center. Of your comes, of course. And together, let's hold our hats as we do our hats off. But before I give you the cue, I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking everyone. Of course, first one would be all our resource persons, our partners. Thank you for the past 35 years for being there, for supporting our programs, and for supporting our MSMEs. And of course, all our MSMEs who have been, stopped from learning and look at the Philippine Trade Training Center as your possible source of information about how to grow your respective enterprises. And of course, to the team at the Philippine Trade Training Center, my colleagues, the new ones, the senior ones, and everyone who has been here and are no longer with the Philippine Trade Training Center. Thank you, for being here or for having been here and for having supported all our MSMEs. Actually, what I'm wearing right now, I just would like also to take this opportunity of introducing to you what I'm wearing right now is called a sloong. It's a Tiboli hat. And only the Tiboli princess can use this. Oh, biglang ganon, di ba? Okay, anyway, I'm an unadopted Tiboli. And yes, that's why I'm wearing this. Okay, so as Gia was mentioning early on, instead of the usual toast, okay, that we offer to the resource persons and the partners, the MSMEs, and to our colleagues at the Philippine Trade Training Center, we're doing the literal hats off. Maybe if we can just show on screen, everyone, all our PTTC colleagues. Together po, nakita ba tayo? Can we see it on screen? Baka pwede natin palakihin. Kita ba?
Ako, kita ko kayo.
Ako lang naman yung nakita. Baka pwede natin makita. Hindi, baka pwede natin makita lahat ng mga taga-PTTC. Ganun din. Okay, naka-gallery yata siya. Okay, yes, there we are. Very cute smiles. Hi, Apple! Okay, nakakita ko ng mga ilang kaibigan, di ba? Hi, Apple. Hi, Narcel. Siyempre nakikita natin yan. Okay, anyway, so together, ladies and gentlemen, and we'd like, of course, to enjoy you also and invite you if you're here. Parang ganun, no? To invite you to join us in our cocktail program, a cocktail later on. Okay, so if we just turn on our cam, Boy is also there. I see all of you. And together, let's put our hats up. Okay? Put it on our chest. Ganun, no? And take a bow. Thank you very much. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, our very own Executive Director, Nelly Nita Diliera. No, grabe, goosebumps yun, partner, no? Kasi nga naman, di ba, instead of of doing the usual toast, sabi nga ni Edie, no, mas maganda rin naman na sumubok ng iba, no? On how we could at least recognize and give appreciation talaga sa ating institutional partners and our resource persons. Muli, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Yes, and time is indeed of lightning speed. When you are enjoying, we have now come to the end of today's program.
Grabe, partner, yun na yun. Ang bilis, no? Talaga naman pag nag-e-enjoy ka, hindi mo namamalayan ang oras. And to give her close, no? Eto na.
Yes.
Let us hear from the Philippine Trade Training Center Globe MSME Academy. OIC Deputy Executive Director, none other than the very passionate and driven and visionary Maria Fe J. Avila. Let's all give her a virtual round of applause.
Yeah. All right, so every beginning has an ending, and so we're here. We've lived, and that's how we punctuate or exclamate. Let me say exclamate our 35th year. This is one of our ways of showing you that PTTC is here, working to be in step in accelerating the progress of our MSMEs, especially in this time where change is not just we say is constant, but a constant reality that becomes one of the highest of the imperatives today. So on behalf of the PTTC management and staff, we thank you for making the time to join us in the celebration of our 35th anniversary. Part of these imperatives is to give partnerships and collaborations a view of increasing vital importance in the time of digitalization, and which is accelerated by the pandemic. This is one of our attempts to be proactive in ensuring that we deliver our mandate at its best. We believe that part of this is our responsibility to do an initiative like this just concluded session for our resource persons and partners who are a vital part of our learning ecosystem. We hope that PTTC, through this session, had helped add to your already rich knowledge and expertise, especially towards ensuring that our MSMEs get the quality training they deserve, especially, again, in this time of pandemic. I'm always highlighting pandemic. Next, after this, would be a lot of exciting and even more challenging work, coupled with the implication of digitalization and pandemic to transform the behavior of our learning. So thanks po, Secretary Joey. Of course, our favorite music alma, Sir Eric, Sir Aurelian, and Dr. Donald Lee. Lastly, kudos po sa buong PTTC team. Palakpakan po natin sila. Nagpakita na naman po muli ng kanilang best upang maisagawa natin ito. Hats off sa lahat ng taga-PTTC, on-cam or behind the scenes. You are all part of this another successful event. Thank you, Eddie Nelly, for showing your unwavering support and guidance po sa aming lahat. On to our 36th, and thanks all. Stay safe and God bless.
Some of your colleagues or even friends from the government.
For 35 years, PTTC is committed in providing comprehensive training and capacity building programs. Of course,
PTTC's mission was clear: to raise the level of awareness of Filipino businessmen.
Dito sa PTTC, kumbaga, serbisyong higit pa sa inaasahan, more than just training. We want our training to
Hindi lang siya training, meron siyang kasamang mentorship at hands-on guidance para sa ating mga MSMEs.
PTTC offers specialized courses for specific industry groups directed at...
So we have prepared programs for you, and we have tailor-fitted programs for your needs. So
Thank you, Edie Nelly, Deliera, and PTTC team for the valuable training that you continue to provide MSMEs in the Philippines.
The PTTC Global MSME Academy has become more relevant and responsive to the needs of our
On behalf
MSMEs.
of the team PTTC, welcome po to the 35th anniversary celebration of the Philippine Trade Training Center.
35 years of service is indeed an achievement for any organization, and we are just
Important collaboration. While this signing of the Memorandum of Understanding marks the beginning of our partnership,
I believe that we are all here with the desire for a joint force in improving the cybersecurity environment.
Mindset and to have a belief that cybersecurity is important in the organization. If you
So nagulat po siguro kayo, no? We provided you all the information, all the training access na pwede nyo mapuntahan, but still, meron...
In response to the changing times, the center recognizes the need to recalibrate its efforts.
The equivalent of the MSME in the animation industry and in the film industry basically is the producer.
na trainings here in the Philippine Trade Training Center, so it's something na talagang makakatulong po sa inyo.
Alright. So, before we formally end our program, may we request everyone to switch on your camera for a very quick group photo. So, tech team. Okay. And before we end, we remind also everyone to just fill out now the CSF and attendance link. Yes. Hindi na attendance and CSF link.
Ayan. So for our regular and upcoming trainings and programs, please visit the website at www.pttc.gov.ph, and you may also hit like and share button from our Facebook page, that is www.facebook.com/pttc.gmail. And we are going to give you more options po, no? If you could not get to be in touch with whatever yung mga sinabi ko pong link, you may reach us at learn@pttc.gov.ph, because we do hashtag. Ayan.
Muli maraming salamat sa lahat ng dumalo, nakisaya at nakibahagi mula sa unang araw hanggang sa huling araw ng ating week-long founding anniversary. It has been a pleasure once again. This has been your host, Gia Junido
and Luis Alfonso Fernando from the Philippine Trade Training Center Global MSME Academy, celebrating 35 years of hashtag
and 35 years of public service, excellence, and changing the Filipino MSME lives for the better. Maraming salamat po at ingat po sa lahat. Please stay for a while for the flag lowering.